Seth, you all set? All right, since now it's 6 o'clock, welcome to the Muscatine Valley Regional School District School Board meeting tonight. Thank you for joining us. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. First up on our agenda, we have approval of minutes, public and non-public, from August 22nd. I'm looking for a motion on those.
Make a motion that we approve the minutes, public and non-public, on August 22nd.
I'll second.
All right, Kathleen with a second. Any comments, questions, corrections, concerns from the board? I didn't have any corrections either. It was very good. Thank you, Campbell, as well, as always. Anything from anyone else? No? All right, all those in favor of approval of the minutes, public and non-public, from August 22nd, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Abstentions. We have Vicki and Candace abstaining. So. All right. Up next on our agenda, we have public comment. I will say we do have a presentation right after this section of public comment. And that'll be on transportation and buses and everything. So if you want to hold your comment till after, that is fine too. But it is your choice. But it is open for public comment. Just a reminder of our policy. We do have a 5-minute limit per person. How many people are planning on speaking here tonight? Just a quick show of hands. Okay, all right. So if every single hand shot up, then we'd look and say maybe a little shorter.
Did we get everyone to sign in?
Oh, yes. If you haven't signed in, you can sign in on your way out, right over there, just for the minutes. That way we have accurate record of who's here. So that being said, it is open for public comment. If anyone has any public comment they'd like to say right now. All right. So therefore, seeing no public comment at this moment, we have a presentation on transportation.
Super. So Seth is pulling up my transportation presentation for this evening. For the members of the public that are here, you'll see that what I've done is put together some of the frequently asked questions that I often get as they pertain to buses. I think this is a good opportunity for me to be able to address as the superintendent some of the questions that we often receive at the SAU office, or I see on Facebook, or people send me on Facebook. So this will help address some of the concerns. This will help give uniform answers to some of the questions that continue to bombard my office as we move along. How are we doing, Seth? You need me to stall for some more time?
A couple seconds.
Okay. So, look at that, Seth. You're better than you thought. So here we are at transportation frequently asked questions. Question number 1, why are the routes so long? So per the bus contract that we currently have with Butler's Bus, we are contracted to receive 11 large buses for use in our district. It's wonderful. Do I have 13 large buses? Maybe I said 11, I meant 13. Do I have 13 buses? Yes, I do. We have 13 buses available to us, but how many drivers do we have? You'll see in the next line, we only have 9 drivers. I have 9 people who are able and willing to drive those large buses for us. We need to hire 4 more drivers, and that puts us at a total of 14 buses out on the road. If you know someone, if you see someone, if you know someone who's retired, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and they would like to drive a bus, there's the contact number. The other thing I will note in this is that this year we did add van drivers to this. We were able to get 3 extra van drivers, so for not special ed identified students, we were able to find 3 van drivers and add those to us. They can only fit a very limited number of kids. We still need more drivers, but those van drivers have really helped to get some of the pressure off our buses and to get some of those kids that live on roads that big buses really shouldn't drive on, because we all know there's some of those here in the district. We've really been thankful to have those van drivers help us out. Go ahead, Seth, let's see what's next. Oh, transport my kid, it's the law. This one comes to me quite often, right? I often get some parents that are very upset, and they tell me, it's the law, Amanda, you have to transport my kid. So you'll see my first piece here is an excerpt from the Department of Education. It was in response to a parent who was fairly upset with me. We were trying to work through finding a way to transport her kids to school. And you can see there that it does say for the purpose of clarity, and that starts with the email. We do note that although transportation is required to be provided for pupils in kindergarten through grade 8 who live more than 2 miles from the school to which they are assigned, the transportation of students in grade 9 through 12 is furnished by the school district when they find it appropriate. And that's per section 189.6. Transportation of pupils, if you really wanted to read some exciting law. I've also noted it down there at the bottom, so I've pulled 196.6, RSA 196.6, and I've put it right there. So even though this district does not have to provide transportation for students in grades 9 through 12, we do, because it's good for kids, right? I could tell you that the 75 kids that I have at the high school, roughly that's the number that I was given today, that ride the bus to school and from school from the high school would not have another way to get here if we didn't provide that transportation. And so the good and right and just thing to do is to provide a way for our kids to get to school. So that's 75 kids. If I kicked all those kids off the bus, that gives me 1 extra bus I could put towards the elementary schools or whatever else. Do I think that's the right thing to do? I do not. I think it's good for us to provide transportation for all our kids. What's next, Seth? Why are the buses split according to age groups? And the buses were split according to the age groups. So we have EVS buses, we have CES buses, and then I have middle and high school buses. We did that to make the following improvements. Prior to being the superintendent, I was the principal at the Canaan Elementary School. Many of the issues that happened on buses were either older students exposing younger students to things that they were not developmentally prepared to know or see or do. We tend to like to wait till they're a little older. Or it was, and I think I'll get some nods here, younger students who were constantly at or nagging or even teasing some of my older kids. So developmentally, it was not good for kids to be there. By making the buses school-specific, if you will, including the middle and the high school as one school, we are able to have those dedicated buses leave directly from the school. So the Canaan Elementary School, when I was the principal there, sometimes the buses would have to load kids here at the middle and the high school and drive all the way to Canaan to pick up the elementary school kids. That puts kids out of the school between 3:20 and 3:30. Now, because they're just Canaan Elementary School buses or just Enfield Village School buses, we are able to leave the schools at about 3:05. I will say, being one of the administrators that dealt with the difference in ages, that it is supported. This split has been supported by the administration, right? And now I'm not going to say that there aren't some issues with this, right? Sometimes you have an older sibling that attends the middle or the high school that might be getting home at a slightly different time than a younger sibling. And we don't let the younger kids off the bus unless you have an adult or an older sibling or we have permission from a parent to do that. So sometimes that causes an issue for parents, right? So you've got the older sibling getting off later than the younger sibling. So what we do in that case is I call the bus company or the school calls the bus company and we figure something out in order to do that. But we are aware that it's not a perfect system, but I would say the benefits that we've received from splitting these really have outweighed the issues. And we do our best to try to accommodate for those issues. Seth, what's next? Oh, why don't we just break the contract? Why don't you get a superintendent that knows how to read a contract? So those have been comments that have been said to me or I've seen on Facebook. Would I tell you my degree was in law? Absolutely not. That's why I'm not a lawyer. But I do know some lawyers that have read the contract for us. And the advice from legal is that, yes, you have this clause here, Amanda. You can certainly break the contract. Absolutely, you could break it. But who's going to come in and replace you? So to the people that say to me, why don't we just break the contract? I say, if you know someone that runs a bus company and would be willing to take over our contract for this budgeted amount, please let me know. But I need it stated for the record that I have been in touch with legal on this, and in order to break the contract, I would need another bus company to come in. Because as you saw in 189.6, we are bound to provide transportation. So I can't get rid of butlers if I don't have somebody else to come in. Next up, are there penalties for missed routes? Yes, so these are 18, 19, and 20 from the direct contract that is part of the school board packet. So what I've done is pulled these out for reference. So if people wanted to know what we get reimbursed every time there's a missed route or a trip, here are the amounts. I'm not going to read through it. It's pretty boring contract language, but it is available to you. It is public. It is part of the school board packet this evening. Why won't the bus stop exactly at my driveway? This is especially an issue for some people that are living very, very close to the different schools. Enfield School pops to mind, but I could be wrong. If the bus had to stop at every single driveway, especially within that 2-mile radius, we would have the longest bus routes ever. Okay, so we do ask some of our kids to walk a little bit. We try not to do that to kids that might be walking on a dirt road. We certainly don't want kids walking a whole mile on a dirt road in the winter with snowbanks or icy conditions. So we do our best to try to make sure that those buses run the roads that they can, and that we don't stop every 20 feet to let another kid off. Does that mean that some kids do have to walk a little bit? Yeah. But you can see if you look at 189H that the local RSA says that if it's a mile walk, that might be something that has to happen to kids. We try to avoid it, like I said, especially on dirt roads. Okay, why aren't students with bad behavior removed permanently from the bus? So here I did pull out the piece of legislation that is 189.9A, and it does talk about how students are removed from the bus. So myself or one of my designees, which in this case would be either the principal or the assistant principal at one of our schools, does have the right to pull kids off the bus. And we hope as administration that we are supporting our drivers in doing so when it's needed. I've seen quite a few bus write-ups already, and I know that my administration has been working to do that. On the flip side, anytime we do remove a kid from the bus, my administration takes a terrible beating from the parents, right? We're finding that there's less and less support of any type of disciplinary action that's levied against students. So we do what we can within the law, but as you can see in the highlighted version here, a suspension that would continue beyond 20 school days must be approved by the school board. So my administration does what they can to keep the bus safe for the students around, and certainly if there's a huge issue, we're working with the parents to figure out how to best transport that kid to school. So we are aware of it, but it isn't just as simple as, well, pull those kids off the bus for the rest of the year. That being said, we've done that with high school kids because we don't have to transport them, but otherwise we are bound to transport. So we do run a fine line, and I do hope that we are supporting our drivers and as we move forward in keeping things safe on the bus. I know it's not always perfect, but we're doing the best that we can. Go ahead, Seth. What do I have next? Oh, good. Why are bus routes so long? So once again, we have 13 large buses contracted for use in our district. We only have 9 drivers. We need at least 4 more. Okay? If anybody is interested in driving, thinking about driving, think they might want to think about driving, may just want to drive some of our sports trips, please, please, please use the contact information at the bottom there to get in touch with butlers. It is a long process. The state of New Hampshire is not our friend when it comes to getting people certified to drive. I think the drivers there will shake their head. You don't want to lose your certification. It takes months to get it back. So in order to do that, it's months of time. So if anybody is interested, thinking about it, please contact Butlers. And my final slide says, if you haven't already done so, please thank your bus driver. Because without them, we would not be able to get our kids to school. I know they have a tough job. I struggle just driving. I can't imagine driving and trying to discipline kids. So it is my hope that the district, that the administration, and that the parents support our drivers as we try to move forward and make things a little bit better here in our district. That's the end of my lecture.
Cool. Thank you, Amanda. And does anyone on the board have questions for Amanda on that? Or anything? No? Okay. All right, seeing that, and we can open this up for public comments. I would just say, it is 5 minutes, so try to keep the comments to 5 minutes, please. Please state your name and the town you're from for the record, so we can have that for the minutes. But yeah, open it up for public comment. Go ahead.
Dick Bates, Enfield. The presentation was helpful. A couple other follow-up questions though. You cite the contract. Who employs the drivers? Does the school district employ the drivers? So Butler does. Okay. The contract, you're paying a lot of money for a contract. I understand that, and I understand it's hard to replace. Are there penalties in the contract? So if they're contracted to provide 13 buses, but they can't, are there penalties so that we're not paying for 13 buses and 13 drivers?
Tim, do you want me to do responses now, or do you want me to wait till later?
Probably better as they come, wouldn't you? What do you think?
It's fine.
That's okay. Yeah. I mean, we don't want to get too much into a back and forth because it is 5 minutes per person. So just keep that in mind. That's all.
Yes, so if you don't have, I'm happy to provide you with a copy of the contract, but yes, so those are considered missed routes, so those are reimbursable.
Okay. So, and you are being reimbursed?
Yes.
Okay. In terms of the difficulty hiring drivers, I know there's a myriad of reasons. Is the fact that the people who are hired to drive, they're part-time, and that part-time is split between a few hours in the morning, a few hours in the afternoon, does that contribute to the difficulty? Is there a way that drivers could also be hired, as mechanics, and so that would that be an easier way to attract people who drive?
So I think you run two types of people that are interested in these positions. People that like that part-time work and don't want to work over it, but I think you also do have some people that are looking for full-time jobs. So what we've done and what I find works best is that Butlers may employ you to drive the bus, then you come to school and you work as a paraprofessional for me for the day on a full-time schedule, and then you drive the bus and take kids home. So that's worked best for me because those are people that are dedicated to the district, and they're working everywhere, so it really works best. I have a lot of coaches, I have some teachers. We've really recruited from within to get as many drivers as we can in-house who are dedicated Mascoma people, not looking to jump ship to whatever the next
But
latest
the driving
greatest thing.
portion of it is paid by Butler.
That's correct.
Okay. Last question that I have, and this is more specific to one route, one part of the route, and that's Methodist Hill. And I've looked at our kids are they've been on the very first part of the route, and they're off the last part of the route. So they're on, an hour and a half. I've looked at the route, Methodist Hill, there's like 3 or 4 stops, and they're nowhere near the rest of the route. The next part of the route is down on 4A. Would Methodist Hill be a good candidate for the vans? And even if you have, could you make exceptions with the vans so that you didn't have to have different ages? Would that help for a small route like Methodist Hill, where the younger kids and the older kids could ride together?
We have made those exceptions, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I don't want to ask your address here in public, but it's definitely something. What school are we talking about? The kids are
Indian River,
in VIII.
the high
Okay.
school.
Okay, great. Make sure we have, I don't have that information for you now, but we'll work on it. That's something we can work on. Okay? Can you leave me make sure I have your contact information here.
All right. Further public comments? Cheryl, go ahead.
So my name is Cheryl. I'm from Canaan. Both my husband and I were raised locally, grew up here in the district, attended schools, recognized some of the drivers from back in the day. Thank you. You know, I've struggled with it this year. Was the road was eliminated, the stop was eliminated, no conversations, nothing communicating after 10 years, hey, we're eliminating your road or eliminating your stop. It was, routes are public, come check it out. So, you know, I reached out because my kids and my staff have been there for a while. I think Ryan can tell you Back Bay is a little busy with people flying up through there. And I'm not okay with the boys walking by themselves. Sometimes it's one or the other, not two, coming down Back Bay by themselves because of the issues we've had up there. You know, I came before the board years ago, and Cookie Hebert, who had a very large impact on our district and our drivers and everybody else, you know, she worked hard, and, you know, we had some resolutions back then. So as I mentioned at the last meeting, you know, M8 is running up Fernwood and turns around at the end of my road, but they didn't want to bring the bus down through to drop the boys. They want to backtrack on Fernwood, which is a dirt road and can get pretty potholed up. So they were dumped off at the tail end of M11, which now has them crisscrossing West Canaan, Enfield, Canaan, up and down the side roads, and getting home about 4:20-ish. I will say, though, Matthew is very pleased to have Sherry. Sherry is like one of the best drivers we have, so that is the blessing in disguise for us right now. But it's still going to cause some issues with transporting the kids around to various locations and things. As we saw on social media, you know, we had a lot of people reaching out to me because they know I'm in different committees and public things, and they're like, you know, can you vocalize for us? I said, absolutely. You know, I can take your stuff together, and, you know, because a lot of us have the same concerns. There's no point in having 10 people stand here and say the same thing. So a lot of the common factors are we've got kids with IEPs, 504s, anxiety disorders, other issues such as older siblings are being relied on to watch the younger siblings. I completely understand and support the reasoning why we would separate our middle and our elementary schools. I get it completely. I just find that being a rural district, that sometimes does put the other challenge of, would some of these larger buses not be running a double route? Could we shorten the routes and the kids get home? Now, part of that also would fall back to the parents. Parents need to take responsibility for their kids. Disrespect should not be tolerated. We're raising these kids to be humans and represent us in the future. How are we going to, you know, your child's behavior is not a reflection because of what they're learning at school. It's what they're learning at home and how they're being raised. My children are expected to say yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am. You know, when you go into a store, you hand them the money. You don't throw it across the counter at them. Matthew will tell you when I bring him places, he'll walk up and shake your hand. So, you know, I think parents are just as much fault for these behavior issues. And I've said it before, I'll teach a mannerisms class, and I will work to do community service here if we have to with these kids. You know, parents rely on transportation to get their kids to school because many of us don't work within our immediate communities. You know, if you work at Dartmouth-Hitchcock, I can tell you traffic is a disaster from 7:15 onward. So you're playing Frogger trying to get there. I went to HR and my employer the last couple of years. When COVID hit, buses asked us to drive our children. Work agreed because I work in healthcare. Of course we don't want our kids on the school bus. It's not safe for COVID. So we did it. We worked it out. We eliminated some of the risks. restrictions are releasing. They're expecting more and more people to be back at the hospital. I went and I talked to HR last week, and I spoke with my immediate supervisor, which is a new person for me, so it makes me a little nervous. We're going to try to find a way to make this work for me and my 2 children and a friend's child. But I can't resolve it for everybody else who still has all the same problems. Mr. Bates, I think, was your name, right? So Fernwood Farms is also another shorter road. Before it was M15, and then M5 and M15 got merged 4 years ago, I believe it was, when we lost a driver then. So I think, if you look at some of them, you could break them up. Methodist Hill, I put Jess in the car and I took her because she'd never seen Methodist Hill. There's families on that road. Families and siblings could ride together. Faith is an example. She's 5 years old in kindergarten, on the bus at 6:15, home at 4:30 in the afternoon. You think about those things. I also want to commend Mr. Shinglinger for, as a teacher, driving a bus route. His route was so long he had to stop because it was impacting his students, and I appreciate that tremendously. Trying to help us out in the district, trying to help out with transportation, but also taking the minds of students in the classroom. Not only that, his own well-being and his health. I'm just going to ask that, we all need to work together. Parents need to help out with the discipline issues. Following up with some of Amanda's comments about thanking your driver, our tradition in our family is your driver gets a I survived my first day of school. I survived 180 days worth of school. They get Christmas, they get Halloween, they get Easter, and then they get just because. That was a crappy snowstorm. I'm sorry you had to go through it. Here's some coffee. So, we all can work together, but we do need to find some resolutions for it. It's becoming too much on the kids. We're getting phone calls, this kid's got a migraine in the nurse's office. I don't know.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Yes.
Yep, Robert West, Enfield. First, I wanted to thank both of my, both of my kids' drivers, who I believe are here. You guys are awesome. You're making a really bum deal work the best you can. My concerns would be similar to Cheryl's in that how the routes are implemented. They were sent out to us, and the entire section of our town was nowhere to be seen on the routes, so there was no communication for that. So I started a line of communication with the schools, and basically was told, the school was working on vans to work on the outlying sections, and that those would be, new schedules would be coming out with that information. The new schedules came out, we weren't on any of the van routes. So then there was more communication about, okay, we're not on this van routes. And then we were told we were the only family on the road. Maybe we could get on a special ed bus. At that point, I didn't want to push the issue, even though we are longer than 1.5 miles from the nearest stop. So according to law, we do have to have transportation provided. But I knew the kids were going to be on the bus for 1.5 hours all over the town. It's not a super bad hardship for us to drive them to 4A. Didn't want to push the issue. But truth be told, there's 5 kids that would be collected on our road. So I guess, my confusion and criticism would just be the communication about why these roads were dropped, and how to make up for that out front instead of waiting for questions to come from parents. And similar to what the gentleman up front said, it seems like a no-brainer to put the vans on Methodist Hill and to take the big buses and bring them out to the rural flat roads. If only for safety. That would be my only comment on that. You would get a lot more density out by us and put the kids on the vans. That's really it. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. Any further public comment?
Yes, I have a.
Okay.
So,
you and then you. Okay.
So Jessica Stewart, I just have a question. I have a couple of questions actually. When a route is being terminated, who makes that call?
What do you mean by terminated?
Like when it's not on the schedule anymore? Removal of a route. A road.
Oh, removal of a road.
Yeah.
So not a route.
A stop.
A stop.
I'm sorry, yes.
Of a stop.
Yes.
So that comes to the school board, where we approve the routes, where we are presented the routes based on input from Butler and principals, based on enrollment, right?
That's correct. So we're only as good as the data that we have. So if we're not aware that a certain kid needs to ride the bus, we may not include that, tell butlers to include that in the group, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because similar years ago, we had the same situation where, our stop got eliminated with no communication also. So I was just curious on how that whole process.
Yeah, and sometimes it's an error. I'm sorry to interrupt you and jump in, but sometimes it is an error, right? And we just haven't realized that, typically that kid hasn't ridden the bus, but something has changed, or a kid moves. That's the biggest challenge that we have, is that all of a sudden we have kids move in, or we need to add. So in those cases, we try to do our best to contact butlers to get people added back on.
And as far as like specific stops, I don't know yours specifically, but it may be that it might be one of those stops where there's a few of them condensed in one area, and they say, okay, let's condense it down to 1 or 2 stops. That might be a way that some people might have their stop eliminated because, let's say you've lived in your house for whatever, 10 years, you've had a stop there, and then someone else moves in, and then they look at it and say, oh, there's more kids, let's put the stop here. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
anyway, sorry, continue.
No, that's okay, just a little bit, just because I didn't know, so I'm just curious on how that whole
So
process.
I'm hearing from you the same that I heard from Mr. West, communication.
Yes, like communication is imperative. We can all improve, but yes, I mean, my kids have been riding the buses. I have a son that's graduated now, but I mean, we still back in the day had communication issues, and we're still having communication issues now. So if communication can just improve, I think that would help a lot to alleviate stresses, all the way around, for sure.
Thank you.
All right. Anything? Okay.
Thank you.
All right. And go ahead.
Hi, I'm Eric Shorey. I'm a driver for the school district. I have a list of things I could talk about. I'm going to restrict it to 2 interrelated things, chain of custody and student privacy. So if you swore me in a court of law and asked me how many students are supposed to ride your bus, I would say, I don't know, the school district refuses to tell me. If you asked me, can you swear the identity of any student on your bus, I would have to say, no, I can't. The school district refuses to tell me. If you asked, can you swear that you are letting the students off at the right stop, I would have to say, no, as a matter of policy, the school district refuses to tell me. I would love the first day of the school year to have an attendance list listing the names of the students, how many they are, and which student is supposed to be dropped off at which stop. I am told that for student privacy protection, that the district is unable to do this. So I have here the names of 12 students. I did not receive these from any school district personnel. I received these from 5, 6, 7, and 8-year-olds. Bus passes, which students need if they get off at different stops. I don't get these from school staff. I get these from kids. It's not uncommon for me to say, when a kid tells me, oh wait, I'm getting off somewhere else, where's your bus pass? And there's a conference among kids, and the bus pass comes not from the regular student getting off, not from the student who's getting off there, but from a kid 5 rows down. So I'm not sure why, when this directory information, which there's a specific exemption in federal law, you don't have to keep it secret. You have to send out an opt-out notice to the families, and then if you want that to not be shared, they have to contact you. I also get student names and addresses over an unencrypted radio, where every student on the bus, if they're listening, can hear the name and the address, because I've got a student, usually a 1st or 2nd grader, who knows their first name, but doesn't know their last name, doesn't know their address, and if they go by a nickname. Let's say you've got Willie Gottfried Leibniz, okay? But he goes by Gordy. He's been called Gordy by everyone in his family his whole life. I come to a stop, I get a list of stops. He says, this is my stop. There's a grown-up there. I have no way of determining whether that's his stop or not. If that's not his stop and he gets off, okay, there's a grown-up there, I'm just going to keep on driving. And half an hour later, when his frantic parents call, and dispatch gets on the radio to me and says, where's William? I'm going to say, I have no idea, there was no student named William on my bus. Because the way I find out how students are supposed to get off at their stops is either I remember where I picked them up in the morning, or if their parents brought them in the morning and they're put on the bus in the afternoon, I asked, what's your name? Where do you get off? And if they're a first grader and they've been comparing whether it's best to make fart noises with your mouth or with your armpit with another kid, and we drive past their stop, they are not reliable providers of that sort of information. So, as you can see here, the policy as currently implemented, these kids were labeled on their bags. They were reading, elementary kids, they were trying to learn to read. They're reading each other's bags. This is not keeping this directory information from other kids, which I'm told is why bus drivers can't know who the kids are or where they're supposed to be. So we're failing on this. And the other thing is, the drivers, as a responsible adults, we cannot do chain of custody. The kids get herded onto the buses, and if they get on the wrong buses, like, if there's a problem later, like 4 months into the school year, I will probably know all the kids well enough to be able to, just sort of by intuition, spot problems ahead of time. But I had one kid a couple years ago where I called him the wrong name for 3 months, and he never corrected me. And until he handed me a bus pass with his name, and I realized, wait, I've been calling you the wrong name for 3 months, and you never said, he just answered to the wrong name I was calling him. So, parents give the school district their kids, and it's sort of a sacred trust that you're going to keep track of them and be responsible for them. Like, this isn't 1950 anymore. Like, we're still relatively small, rural, and like the world is statistically way safer than it was in the 50s. But the culture has changed, and if you ask first, second grade parents, is it okay that the school district, the bus company, the bus driver, and the parent, and the kid has no idea where exactly the kid is, and the information necessary to figure that out is not available to the responsible adult on the scene? I think a lot of parents would probably say that that's not an acceptable level of due diligence. So thinking about this for about 5 minutes, you could come up with a system, like the graduation year, so a kindergartner would be
I'm
like
going to let
37.
you finish your thought on this, because you're
A
well over
letter,
time. Yeah.
that's the town, Grafton, and then like 12 because they're the 12th kid in the list. As the secretary in the office was writing it down, you could have a completely anonymous way to positively identify the kids that you could share with the drivers so that we could know that we're actually getting the right kid to the right stop. And a lot of the lateness the first week or two is because we are trying to deliver without the minimum necessary information to make an accurate delivery.
All right, thank you. All right, any further public comment? Yes.
I just wanted
Can you
to
just say your name and town you're
Sherry
from?
White, Grafton, New
Thank you.
Hampshire, and I'm a school bus driver. I just wanted to say to the parents, we do understand how you feel. It's not our fault. We're doing the best job we can. We came into this year, 2 more drivers down. And this woman has taken a beating. And she has saved our lives more than once. And I know that, you know, it's just not easy for a parent or for us. But we appreciate, you know, you being patient with us, you know. We stand solidarity with Butler Bus and with our lead. Yes, we do. Definitely. We don't want another
Okay.
driver, Butler Bus. We want Butler, and that's what we want you all to know. They stand with us and they treat us really well. And that's why we stand with them. And I know that, you know, there's a lot going on here with no drivers, but you know what? You all have it pretty good, because Manchester right now don't have any. Okay? We're down to a skeleton crew. Okay? You got some darn good drivers here, and some good aides. And all we need is some drivers. So if you know anybody, you know, single mother,
That's the thing, nobody wants to work these days.
that, you're right. No, you're
It's
absolutely right.
ridiculous.
You're
We're out
right.
here struggling, working, and everybody else is just doing what they want to do.
That's right, and that's what's happening. But, you know, a single mother with kids that can't afford a babysitter can drive a school bus. That's how I got into it 33 years ago, you know? And I'm still doing that. But I just wanted to say, this woman has taken I don't want her job. I've done this for 33 years off and on. I would never do her job. And she gets a beating, you know. And Butler Bus is doing the best they can for all of you. And as far as we're concerned, we have to stand by them. Solidarity. Solidarity. We have to.
Okay.
You know, so just please be patient. We have a few drivers coming down the pike here, and, you know, 10 can walk in for a license, and only 2 are walking out with it.
That's cool.
You know, that's true. I watched it happen when I went for mine. You know, only 2 walked out, and 10 people walked in. So, you know, that's all I need to say. I just wanted to let you all know. Please be patient with us.
All right. Thank you for sharing. Any further public comment? Deb, and then
I'm gonna be quick. I don't live here. I work for Butler
Can you
Bus.
just
My
say your
name is
name?
Robert Chase. I'm their trainer. I am willing to do whatever it takes to put drivers in your seats. I work Saturdays. I work Sundays training. Eric, Jack, I've trained both of them. I mean, I work around every schedule they could throw at me to get them trained for you guys, and I am willing to do it. When it gets dark, I'll pull the bus in the bus garage, teach them how to pre-trip it. That's what my job is. I just need you guys to send me people to train. I mean, I beat every store, every bush. I'm trying to find drivers from other companies that aren't happy. If I can't find them, to bring them in. I can't train them to help you. I mean, Amanda sent me a couple coaches. That's phenomenal. I just got your girls soccer coach trained yesterday.
Thank you.
He passed his test yesterday, so he's good to go. I mean, we just need help. Help us help you, I guess is the easiest way to say it. Thank you.
all right, thank you. All right. Kate, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Kate Plumley Stewart, and about just under 20 years ago, I sat in the seat you're in a meeting that was a lot bigger with about 200 really angry people about buses. And what we learned was it's not just about who the drivers are, whether you like them or whether you think they're doing a good job. 'Cause I don't think that's the question here. It's about whether the routes are efficient. And are we stopping when a kid can throw a rock at the next kid? Are we stopping in the middle of a 4-way intersection in a dangerous spot? So people are upset about things like that. For 5 running years, they have managed to not schedule my child on a route. I don't know who or how you lose last year's data every year, right? First, 1 year it was they put her on the Canaan bus, and I said, is she going to go to Canaan Elementary? Because that's a possibility. No, she's going to go to Enfield. I said, are you going to run a feeder bus or a transfer bus? No. So So it's a constant issue of how do we lose these bus routes, right? You lost my stops, you lost my sibling's stop, we lost the neighbors, and then we said, oh, we don't have room. Okay, fine, you don't have room. And then we add another kid in Dorchester. So my 9-year-old wanted to be here tonight. She's on the soccer field. To tell you, she loves the drivers, right? So it's not about the drivers. It's not about whether, you know, who can or can't fill in. It's really about making sense of the data we have and using it and putting it to work. So why would you drive by a bunch of kids who you've said don't fit on the bus and drive all the way to Dorchester, right? I think it's about looking at the routes. It's about using mapping software and making sensible decisions. So I was the chair of the school board at the time. I got on the bus and I wrote it, right? Because at the end of the day, this all comes down to you guys. And sometimes you have to take one of those really strong actions in which you sit in somebody else's shoes and you say, okay, yeah, that corner really is dangerous and we are going to let those 2 kids on. But do you need all of these stops on Shaker Hill Road? That's when I hear a lot in Enfield. I see a lot of stops, I get behind the buses. I'm not blaming the drivers, right? But at what point do we say we're going to pick up all of these kids downtown who are right near each other and we're going to leave the kids in the outlying areas and be like, oh, sorry, we don't have a spot for you after you had them last year. You guys are flagrantly in violation of state law in many cases. You need to go to the Department of Education to eliminate some of these stops and have good reason, and you have not done that. So I would say, yes, my kid got back on the bus. Her experience has been, I watched them drive by multiple times. It happens, right? They back up. But she tells me the first day they picked up, it wasn't the person whose name was on the list. It was clearly a man and not Tanya. And then my husband said, who is that? And I said, I don't know, it's the bus driver, right? Like, to me. And then I thought, oh my gosh, did I make a critical error and put my kid on the free candy van? Because that form of communication, when you guys are posting things, it's missing, right? So then I've got a kiddo who tells me, well, they asked me where the next stop is. And I think this gentleman over here spoke to it nicely, right? Corley's like, I don't know where your next stop is and I don't know how to get there. She's 9, right? So we're not equipping people with good information, good data, and we're not making sensible choices on routes. And I think that's something that the school can help pitch in. It's probably a mutual project between Butler and the school, but that work has to be done. You know, and we can't keep pointing fingers because it's not helpful. It doesn't feel good. It's not good for our community. And when people see us doing that activity, who wants to work in that environment, right? Like, it's hard enough to get people to work for you anyways. I have loved every driver that we have had for our kid wholeheartedly, and so hasn't my kids. So I think if we could just take some time and stop and make some sense of some of these routes in a way that is deliberate and careful and really listen to people, some of that noise will go away and it will be easier to get the routes done with who we have and then probably onboard some people because nobody wants to join an organization of any kind where everyone's pointing fingers. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further public comment? Mr. Carey,
Just one, because I'm going to somewhat piggyback on Kate's, because for the last 40 years I've lived on Shaker Hill Road, and I've never figured out why middle and high school kids that live on Union and Pillsbury Street, where there's sidewalk all the way up to the Enfield Village School, couldn't walk up to the Enfield Village School to get picked up, rather than a bus stopping 2, 3, 4 times before it gets to the Enfield Village School. And that might shorten some of these routes, because a bus that holds 77 people and has 50 stops is going to take a while. And that's what a lot of these are. There's 45 to 50 stops on a lot of these routes. I'm old. There's no doubt about it. So I am the person who walked a half a mile to get a bus with 15 other kids, because the bus only stopped 7 times in a 5-mile area. And I'm sorry, but that's how it was at the time. In my case, they dropped me off at a public school, so I had to walk another quarter of a mile to Catholic school. But, because Catholic school's not on the list at all, so you used to have to walk and then walk back down there. Yeah, but we did it. Kathleen's smiling because we've talked about this before. Nobody ever dropped me off at my dooryard. No. And nobody ever was gonna drop me off at my dooryard. And at some point, when does a bus system become an Uber service? Because you're picking people up at the end of their driveway, rather than making them walk 200 yards where they could pick up 3 or 4 other kids on Shaker Hill Road. You know, we always use the, well, you know, in the winter they're not going to school. By the time the next day, there's not a problem on Shaker Hill Road because the banks are already pushed back, and these are the same kids who are walking down Shaker Hill Road all the time. Just because it's a bus doesn't mean they're not able to walk. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Any further public comment? Oh, come on over.
So, Melanie Stock with Grafton. Group stops seem to be utilized when convenient. It should be universal. It would cut down the routes significantly. It seems some of the decisions that are made set this bus company up for failure. They're short-staffed like everybody else is. Compromises need to be made. I don't understand how we separated the little school with the big school. Let's make 2 routes even though we're down 4 drivers. That made no sense to me. And I understand that some kids are the problem. Maybe we should be separating those kids, not the entire routes. We need to pass the buck to the blame, not to each other. Parents need to be involved. Parents need to discipline. And if kids habitually offend on a bus, there needs to be consequences. Whether they're in grade school, middle school, high school, there needs to be consequences from the bus company, from the administration, and from the parents. Everybody's pointing the finger, and it's getting worse. It's not getting better. Sorry.
All right, thank you. Any further public comment? Yes, go ahead.
Dave Schindler, I live in Canaan, I teach at the high school. About, I don't know, 5 years ago, I heard they needed bus drivers, so I said, oh, I can help. And started with my kids, because they were going to sports camp. I'm going anyways, might as well drive the kids, a whole team, and I guess when Jack started, and just like Jack, I got roped in, hey, can you cover a route here and there? And it's actually been kind of fun. The kids are pretty funny. The views are pretty amazing. You can't make for a long day, you know, because, you know, even if you could take a nap. But I do want to give a shout out to Heather Clough, because she does do that. She drives a bus, comes here, works all day, gets back on a bus. I tried it for 6 weeks. I was like, I can't. Just keep doing it. Katie Gray, I know, works in the kitchen, but for all the bus drivers that have a job in between and don't take it. I know Eric's now working out at the bus barn, helping out. And if there's one thing about this situation that could be a positive, it's, hey, let's appreciate a bus driver. I haven't heard anyone say anything bad about it. But official bus appreciation, that I don't know. I keep hearing that Kevin Cole was giving donuts out. I never got a donut, Kevin. That's it. So, you know, I don't know. I mean, a lot of these kids, we talk about parents and how do we get them maybe more involved to talk to their kids. You know, Canaan PTA, you know, or the principal's letter, stuff like that. I don't want to throw Leah Whalen on the bus, but she doesn't work in the district anymore. I will. Last spring, she put a thing, nothing to talk about on the bus. It's like, what are you talking about? I'm talking about, tell your kids to come on, say hello, be nice to the driver, know your bus driver's name, sit down, stay seated, and have a conversation, and don't leave a mess. Don't leave your potato chips crushed all over the floor. Make it easier. Eric did a nice day-to-day of how the bus driver goes. As a sub, I'll come, and like, it's really more like, and the kid's like, oh, you stop here, you missed my stop. Or I love it. The little kids are like, exactly. They don't even know their first name sometimes. Like, where you live? One kid is kind of, we're going the wrong way. I'm like, really? I'm looking at the route sheet, and I'm like, wait, I know this kid's dad. We're going the right way. Goes, no. But it happens. But it is interesting. I know, like, you'd think that with some technology, with iPads, and understanding new buses are probably going to be the order next year, whether it's Butler or some other company. I mean, yeah, I think there is technology that could be better. But if there's going to be one thing out of here, you know, it's bus appreciation. And like say, how can principals, parents really communicate that? Really talk. Is it going home to parents? Like, are you really talking to the kid about how they're behaving on the bus? Because every time, even if a kid's having a good time, just laughing, every time the bus driver's eyes go up like this, they're not looking at the road. And, you know, there's deer in this. Some of these roads are pretty nice. I've lived here, you know, I grew up here. I went away for 15 years. I came back. there are roads that I've driven buses on I never knew existed. There's roads that I'm in my pickup truck I wouldn't want to go on, but I'm taking a bus on it. And it's a factor. And you're like going, and some people, oh, why doesn't it stop at my house? Well, yeah, but you have to go another mile past the house to turn the bus around. And, you know, it's not, you know, having seen it up close, it's really been eye-opening in a lot of ways. I'd be happy, you know, admit it. I like to talk. I don't need to kill more than 5 minutes here. But I certainly have perspective if you ever want to hear perspective on, you know, things. But, you know, I think what I've heard, what I think is good here is like everyone seems to appreciate the bus drivers. And, you know, hey, show that. They can do little things, gift cards, our elementary classes making little cards to give to the bus driver when they get on. Hey, a Dunkin' Donuts gift card once in a while, that's not a bad thing, you know. I remember one day I was driving, and Mom came out and gave me coffee and said, that's the best thing, you know. You know, those little things like that go. But regardless, next year's going to be a new contract. You know, they're probably going to ask for more money. That is obviously going to be part of it too, you know. Whether you know, it sounds like everyone appreciates bus drivers, that's great, but at the end of the day, you're probably going to have to pay for it. If you think the buses need to be upgraded, you're probably going to have to pay for that too. So parents, we got to push school budgets. We got to be active. People have to vote. You know, I mean, that's a group that doesn't always vote. You got to vote. You want it. Vote for the budget. Vote for these things. But whatever, I'd say it's been. I've actually said I've enjoyed it. It's been eye-opening. I'd be happy to chat a lot more than this if you're interested. But hey, you know, I said I appreciate what you guys are doing, and it's. It's a lot of work. It's not easy, and I want to get that perspective out too, especially on some of these roads in a huge district. But whatever, my 2 cents. Thanks for all you guys do.
That was almost on the money for 5 minutes. That's pretty good. I can tell you're a teacher. All right. Any other further public comment? Yes, sir, go ahead.
Jack Emerson. I live over in Hampshire. Right over there. I got into driving the bus. Like Chin said, my daughter missed a game, so I can do something about that. I've got a pretty weird, flexible schedule. 4 different jobs I do. So, one big thing that I've been noting about is long stops. As a sub, not knowing where everything is, and the first time I got on, I just substituted on a route. Elementary school kids, first kid comes to the door, turns around, looks at the next kid. New driver. Right through the whole crowd. New driver. No rules. No rules.
Oh. No.
So that behavior in terms of length of route is a major factor. There's one route that I was substituting on somewhat regularly last year where I would stop the bus no more than 4 times to have a conversation with the students about sitting in their seats. In terms of communicating with students about what bus expectations are, it would be probably significant improvement if there is some sort of educational portion of the beginning of school. This is what you're expected to do on the bus. This is your expected behavior. There's a lot of training that the bus drivers go through about how they're supposed to be and what they're supposed to do, and how, when they discharge a student off the bus, what they're supposed to check. The student is supposed to look at them, make gestures back and forth to keep them safe. And a lot of these students don't have that information, and it creates a lot of stress. You go out 118, you're looking both ways, making sure that student is hopefully getting further enough ahead that they can be clear. You can make that decision that the lanes are safe, and then one kid does it, perfect. Next time, doors open, that kid is right in front of the bus, you can't see them, and they don't even look when they run across the other lane. And once they're out of that door, there's nothing I can do to stop them. But having education about the expectation that the students are supposed to, that this bus driver isn't just telling me to please sit in my seat. It's a rule of the road. They're really, I think, new driver, no rules. But if they knew the expectations, it's a lot easier to have that communication, and the route could go significantly quicker if you were able to not have to stop the bus and deal with. One way to maybe add that is if in the next budget cycle we added a pair or somebody else, a bus aide, to all these school buses so the driver can concentrate on driving and making stops and not having to back up and do all that stuff. And we took some of the behavioral issues off of the driver solely. So there's two people to help monitor some of the behavior. You get a lot of rowdy young kids that are on that bus for an hour and a half. I've got about 10 or 12 minute attention span. These kids are doing an hour and a half, and I couldn't behave that long. I don't behave that long. That might be a way to help improve some of the behavior and to move forward that way.
Cool. All right, thank you. Any further public comment? Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Stark.
I'm sorry?
Ernie Stark, living in Enfield. I grew up right down here in West Cannon, went to Massachusetts School District. If I got in trouble on the bus, I wasn't worried about what the school was going to do or what the bus company was going to do. Those days are probably gone. I've heard a lot of things about behavior issues with kids, and you're probably not going to find the parents of those kids at school board meetings. You're probably not going to find them down on the sports field watching games. So, the school really has to step up and discipline these kids, and they're going to take the backlash from the parents because they're not doing their job. I mean, what else? What other recourse is there, really? And I think that's an excellent idea of having someone else on the bus. I've always thought that it's not safe for the bus driver to be the driver and the disciplinarian on the bus. They can't see everything that's going on. They shouldn't even be trying. It's not safe.
Thank you. Anyone else? Public comment? Yeah, go ahead.
My name's Holly Mogan. I'm a bus aide for Butlers. I work with the special needs kids. I also work with and have had students that were put on my bus from the other buses. The kids that the other buses couldn't handle. I've had students that would climb seats. I've been bitten by students. I've had everything you can think of. Some of these students are very hard to deal with. And I have a lot of students on my run that are autistic, special needs students, ADHD students. I've had the whole gamut. And one of my problems this past year was scheduling. Now, I had several students added on the first week of school, and I had an issue where the school didn't inform the parents of a change in the schedule. And I had to wait 10, 15 minutes with some of these kids that are very high-strung students that do not want to sit still, that are very difficult. And one of the things that makes our jobs easier is when the school communicates with the parents, so that the parents are able to get these students out when they need to be out to the bus. Because these students that I deal with thrive on continuity. They thrive on regularity because it makes the chaos that they deal with, the difficult things, learning, sitting in their seats, behaving in a group setting with other students that are also high-strung, it makes it that much simpler to deal with these difficulties. And so I had to speak with the parents so that they knew what time their child was going to be picked up and dropped off. But that's not my job. My job is to help these kids get from point A to point B safely. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any further public comment? Anyone else?
I'm sorry, real quick. As a parent of students, they come home with all this paperwork. You need to sign this, I'm using a calculator. You need to sign this, I'm using a computer. Why don't you guys make us commit to a contract of how we treat our bus drivers? That if the student acts up, this is laid out, A, B, C. This is what happens. Sorry, but it's a school service. Just like the laptops are, just like the calculators are. And this might actually bring down some responsibility on the parents, which clearly, as he stated, you're right, you're not going to see them at the meetings. They're not going to listen. They're not going to do their job. But if they sign the contract, you're holding them accountable.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes.
I got a comment on that. Isn't that in the handbook that the students are given every year?
Yeah, just your
But
your
do
name.
they sign them?
Your name and town?
Oh, Carleen Marshwelly.
Thank you.
Canaan.
Yes, it
Bus
is.
driver.
For the middle and high school, right, just middle and high school, there's the student handbook that details all that in the handbook.
That's correct, there is a.
But it's not a separate.
It's not a
It's
Not a separate
It's
thing.
not signed.
It's not separate.
Yeah.
But they do have to sign acknowledgement of the handbook and all that sort of thing, so. All right,
Yeah.
And I'm Aaron.
okay.
Sherry White, Grafton. You guys were talking about, these stops that are very close. I have a lot of them. And if they met in one area, that would cut our route in half.
Yeah.
And these kids would get home a whole lot sooner.
But then their parents complain.
Yep. I used to walk 2 miles to school and home every day. Didn't matter what weather it was. I lived in the city. You heard it. It wouldn't hurt them. Gets them off that couch. Off this. Then I'll give them some exercise.
Childhood obesity is an epidemic.
Yeah.
And-
Blackwater Road. I've got 4 stops.
Let's let people talk and not engage in crosstalk, please. Thank you.
I got 4 stops, and they could all go together.
All right, cool. Thank you. Yes, go ahead. Just state your name and
I'm
town.
Lindsay Stewart. I'm her daughter. I'm a high school student. I'm 9th grade. I live in Grafton. My first comment is, why do I have to wake up so early to get on the bus? It's no hate to any of the bus drivers. I love my bus drivers, but what happens is I have to wake up at 5:30 in the morning and get on a bus at 6:15. I'm immediately tired, and that doesn't help with all my school stuff, and it has really declined my grades, like really massively. And I also have sports after. So when I get home, I'm really tired. And even if I don't have sports, I get home at 4:30, and it is very hard for me to get all of my work done. And I feel like a lot more people could definitely work as a bus driver. I just think they don't necessarily want to. I know it's their choice, and I feel like we need to somehow, I don't know how, but fix this issue, because it really is a problem for students not being able to get their work done, because when you need to get your work done on a bus, it's not that easy.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We always love having students come up. Any other further public comments? Just want to make sure. Oh, go ahead.
My name is Eric Stone. I'm a bus driver. I live in Grafton out on 4A. Past Enfield Center. My kid goes to Enfield Village School. First off and foremost, Dave, I actually feel appreciated. The Stewart family and the West family, they've been really good to me on the route in the past. I've only done this is my 2nd year doing bus driving. I did it so I could be more present in my daughter's life. It occurs to me, I've got 9 stops on Shaker Hill Road between the Four Corners and Lockhaven. 9 stops. Okay? There are some of those stops children don't get on the bus. Ever. But there's definitely, I think there's room for group stops there. Forgive me, it's a little fractured. I really wasn't planning on speaking, but a whole lot of this sort of got my juices flowing. Behavior on the bus. I'm the only Enfield Village School bus driver. Let that sink in. One bus driver for the whole school. Okay? So in the afternoon, I get a random smattering of kids, kind of like herding cats. There's no discernible order in which they get on. And I've got, I've got Sherry, she's been doing this a very long time. They told me, assign seats. But I think it would be easier if the kids came out in some sort of a grade order. I think that would be super simple. You bring the kindergartners out first and you fill the bus front to back, or vice versa. Because I have situations where there's fourth graders in the back of the bus mixing it up with kindergartners, and and there's no. Fortunately, they're good kids, but I feel like what I'm doing is babysitting in addition to driving the bus. I feel like the rules of the bus. I mean, there's always keep your feet out of the aisle, stay seated, face forward, no eating, yada yada yada, all that. Well, you really, while you're driving down the road, as Dave was saying, you're driving down the road. You got the mirror here, and you got a windshield here, and you got traffic oncoming. So some of that stuff has to sort of be not as much paid attention to. So it feels like I'm putting out fires from a behavior standpoint. But I think that sort of a common theme here is group stops. And I feel bad for the West family and the other folks that get on at the end of Grafton Pond Road, simply because he's 1.5 miles plus that driveway that you have, to the end of Grafton Pond every day to get his kids on the bus, and at what point, it's 3 miles a day. I think probably 3 miles to get him to the school. Probably drive his kids to school for that matter, And I'm not insinuating that he should do that, but it seems like, I'm recognizing the weakness of the group stop, but I think that's probably the best course of action is doing group stops. As an aside, I was asked by one of the Hartford dispatchers at the end of the school year last year to do a Hartford route at 1 o'clock in the afternoon because they had a half day. And I was able to drive from my house in Grafton to the Butler Terminal in Hartford, load the kids onto the school bus, deliver all the kids, turn around and drive back, and be able to be at Enfield Village School with 15 minutes to spare. I was able to execute it was a full bus in less than an hour because it was route stops. Now that's Hartford, there's a lot of, it's a more, it's not as rural as of an area, but it just struck me as like, wow, that would be great if we could do that. So that's all I have. Oh, and Sherry's talking about Sierra's work. I think she's doing a great job. The route that I had at the beginning of the year, it's only been a couple of weeks in, compared to what the route is now, she's really been able to make it so, the kids aren't getting home at 5. Like the first couple of days, my last kids were getting off the bus at 5 after 5. And now my last kids are getting off the bus at 4:30. So, and it gets me home a little sooner too. So I think she's doing a great job. Thank you, Sierra, for everything. And thanks for listening.
Thank you. Any further public comment? Go ahead.
My name is Max Corville. I live in Canaan. I have ADHD and need to be taking my medication daily so I can focus in school. I take my meds at 7 a.m. in the morning every day. It stops working in the afternoon sometimes. Timing for me is important. Mom also said if I don't behave on the bus, I have to clean it. Thank you.
I like that part.
You want me to keep my bus?
Thank you, man. Thank you for sharing. We like the students sharing. Any other public comments? I saw your hand first, and then your sir.
Yeah, just some quick input. The shortage of bus drivers is really putting the microscope on all the other issues and just exacerbating it. It just kind of blows up from there. 4 extra drivers would make a lot of these other problems seem a lot smaller. So, the reality is that we need to do what we can to get drivers. And I think adding a person on the bus to watch the students, so the bus driver didn't have to do it, would make that job more desirable. So I really am a strong advocate for doing that. And other than that, what have we done? Have we done any kind of advertising blitz or anything to just get it out there? Like,
oh yeah,
the boards on the stores and the newspapers and everything. I haven't seen. I don't. We've watched that media.
We've parked the bus down there during the summer and during the year with banners on it saying drivers needed. We've had it on their electronic sign. It's been advertised in newspapers, online. Yeah. Websites on that. Yeah. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Just a quick observation. I mean, this has all been about buses, but there's very different issues here, and I hope you'll address them separately. Scheduling, length of time versus the behavior. They really are very separate issues.
Thank you. All right. Any further public comment?
I would like to just respond to that. I think that the length of time and the behavior of the students go hand in hand. I think because you got a kid who's on the bus an hour and 45 minutes, and like Jack was saying, he's got a 12-minute attention span. I think that if kids could be on the bus for, actually, let me put it this way. I've got one student who last year was on the bus for 45 minutes, and now the kid in the morning's on the bus for 10. Night and day difference in behavior. And he is a year older, too.
There may be some overlap,
I get
but the solutions are addressed very differently.
All right. Any further public comments?
Can we give a round of applause to the bus drivers?
And Kate, go ahead.
Kate Plumley Stewart again from Enfield. So I think my takeaway here, though, is that there is a big body of work that needs to be done, and there needs to be boots on the ground. And I think the board really needs to dive in and try to look at this. Do you take a bus and send it to Enfield and then send it to Dorchester and send it to Grafton? I sent a map of the route we were originally given. And so some of those things are, it's necessity, right? You're trying to fit a kid on, so you send them all over because, oh my gosh, they don't fit here. But some of those can be taken care of. I would say what we did to make the routes shorter, because it is directly related to behavior. The longer you leave that kid on the bus, the exponential chance that your kid is going to misbehave goes up. So you take those downtown routes and the ones where the kids can throw a rock and hit each other, and you consolidate them, and you ask parents to have their kids walk on the sidewalk and walk to work. And then that's going to take care of some of your outliers. So as a school board, we had gotten all of the routes, including Dorchester, under an hour. And I think that's the sweet spot, right? Under an hour. And I think that's not against the bus drivers. It's just, that's what the focus needs to be on, is how do we get these bus drivers what they need and the tools they need to be successful. And I would say, just in support of Eric is awesome. And my family told our kids that if they misbehave on the bus, they will walk to school. It is uphill both ways. And we will follow them, right? But the people in this room, these aren't the people who are the problem. So the school board, when you have an issue and administrators need to kick a kid off, you have to back, right? It takes a big backbone to look at a parent and be like, your kid's a jerk. But I'm going to tell you, I have looked at more than one parent in my life and been like, I'm sorry your child misbehaved. Better luck next time. Because you know what teaches a kid not to fool around on the bus? Not getting to ride it and having to have a mad parent miss work. So you guys have to back up your administrators. You have to back up your bus drivers. And I think that's really important. And I'm not saying it's not happening, but when these things come, those kids have got to be out of here. When I hear the entire back of a bus yelling and that is not Eric's fault, I looked at Eric and I was like, is that one of the kids in my family? Because they're dead, right? And that's what we need in this community, though. We need to say, and then I looked at the kids and I was like, hey, stop yelling. So we all have a part in this, and I need you guys to really put boots on the ground and pitch in.
All right, thank you. Any further public comment?
Just one comment.
Yes.
There's always room for improvement. Period.
Always, yeah.
So like, there's ways to improve this, and it's very clear that we know that there are several issues, and we want to improve this in any which way we can. So I just wish people and hope people don't lose sight that there's always room for improvement. It takes a village, as they say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Yes, Mr. Toll.
Kevin Tolkien, your responsibility, citizen and principal. If you want to address the discipline and working together, no. We did not work together the last couple of years. The bus drivers were trying desperately to help those kids on the bus and tell them, sit down, shut up, sit down, shut up. Wouldn't write them up. And then all of a sudden, as a principal, I get 3 write-ups. And I'm supposed to kick them off the bus without any intervention. We worked together on that. So far this year, I've had 3 write-ups on 1 student. And yes, he is off the bus. He had 2 interventions with us to stop. And he did not. And he got a 3rd. If we get the write-ups, they are supported. And they will be supported. That's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Toll.
Don't be kind.
My name is Cindy Malkin. I've been with Butler Bus for 6 years. And I just want to say that I think that Sierra has done an outstanding job. She's seen us through COVID. We've had bus drivers with COVID. We've had road problems in Grafton. We had a road agent hired who could not use the equipment because he didn't have the license to do so. So we've had very poor roads. We've tried to avoid the poor roads. We have had a lot of flack from parents who live on these poor roads that demand that we go on them at the peril of our lives. And I mean, one time the bus slid backwards, and Sherry's bus was inches from going over a 30-foot embankment. I mean, these are dangerous roads. And we are serious when we say some of these roads cannot be passed. And that is why we have asked that roads have been taken off of our routes. And I just want to emphasize again that Sierra has done an exemplary job. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Any further public comment? Just letting everyone make sure they get their say. All right. Excellent. Thank you very much, everybody, for weighing in. School board, any comment? Anything you want to? Vicki, go ahead.
Well, I'm Vicki. Obviously, I represent Dorchester. I'm a for going ahead and clumping some of the stops that need to be done. But my house is, if my children were to cross even just that short bit to come with another child's stop, they're potentially going to get hit. 118, they do not do the speed limits. And if they're not going to stop for a big yellow bus or a white van with flashing lights, what are they going to do when my child, who's just simply running across the road? We've had livestock hit, we've had chickens get hit, and it's literally right there. I mean, I don't think it's, in some spots, yes, you can clump them together. But other times, it's my child's life just going to get on that bus. And I'm sorry, but I don't understand all of it, where you want to clump.
Only on spots that are safe.
Okay, because
Yeah.
118 is just not.
We would never do
So-
that on 118.
Like I said, my chickens have taken the big one right
Oh,
there.
yeah, yeah.
And it's like,
Same.
oh my gosh. And like, I don't know your name, but you have children that don't always abide by waiting for the school bus driver, eye contact. I mean, I have 2 severe ADHD children, and they ran across that road. You know, even with a big yellow bus, it's like, you know, so.
Anyone else on school?
I just think that this is very powerful tonight to have all the stakeholders here. You know, you have bus drivers and you have the administration and you have, you know, please, and I think that that is what really needs to happen in terms of getting, you know, making progress. Is that get the administration together, you know, and have maybe potentially a working group or something. And I also think some of these solutions need to happen pretty quickly. And
yes,
we also need to do things at the state level. And I think that we can address that certainly in terms of making it easier to get a license to be a bus driver and it to be more streamlined. And I would love to know what bus company thinks about that. I don't even literally, you know, quite know exactly what needs to happen. But that's something I think that we can.
Give me a call.
Yes, exactly. I think that's a piece too. So I think this is great, and I appreciate Amanda putting this together. And it's good to start.
Anyone else on the board? Yeah, Danielle, go ahead.
I just want to reiterate, you know, the fact that it's great that we have so many people that are here and invested in finding a solution. I really think that it is likely to be a phased approach because there are immediate concerns that need to be addressed, and we've got some ideas for those, and implementing those, I think, is going to be a team effort as well. You know, we're trying to come up with some solutions that are maybe a little bit more creative or new, and that can be that short-term first phase of things, but the longer term, to get to that state that we all want to get to, which is routes that make sense, stops that make sense, drivers that are supported, enough drivers, enough routes, so that our kids can be safe and healthy and ready to learn. And that's what we're really all going for. I'd love to be able to have routes under that gold standard of an hour. I would have to look back to the 10 years ago when that happened to see how many drivers they had.
19.
Right? 19, right.
Plus 2 little ones.
Yeah, so there's, as much as we want to be able to get back to a time when we felt like it was more manageable, we also had more capacity in the workforce to be able to do that. And that, I think, is one of those really big things. So finding solutions that we can implement in the short term to be able to address some of these key concerns that have been prioritized by your advocacy for your students, for yourself, and for your peers and colleagues is going to be, I think, the next step that we're going to have to face. And figuring out what we can do to support that, you know, and if we want to have bus aids on buses so that it's easier to get drivers, then that means that contract is going to go up a lot more if those are Butler's employees, or if they're school employees, then we'd have to be able to do that. And can we do that? And so, but we're not going to know until we try, right? So we'll, I'm sure, be able to come up with some sort of way to try to address this and move to a place where we're all more comfortable and settled. And again, the number one thing, kids are safe, ready to learn, and getting to where they need to go.
So for clarification purposes, I would just like to state that if there is a driver that has requested an aid on the bus, I have worked with Steve to request that, to put that aid. I have full buses that have aids on them. So I am disappointed to hear that the Enfield bus is in need of an aid, and I had no idea that that was the case.
Yep. Yes, Kathleen, go ahead.
So I have ridden on 2 bus routes last week, and it was very interesting to see how the bus drivers handled the situations. And I can tell you, I came away totally impressed with the bus drivers and their relationship with the kids and the students on the bus. And I thought, you know, this is a good thing. They're making the best out of a bad situation, and they're all trying very hard to pull through. I think I have 7 more routes to do, and I'll be working on that list to get it down before it jumps up with more bus drivers, because that's not a profession that I would want to do, and I appreciate everything that you all are doing. And it really means a lot to this community to have you out there, and we truly, truly couldn't do it without you. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else on the board? All right. So yes, I also want to thank everybody for showing up here tonight, for having this discussion, for being part of the discussion. It does take everybody involved working together to find a common solution. I think we've got some really good ideas out of this. I'm a big fan of group group stops, where, because that's what I grew up going to. I'd walk and meet my friends at the bus stop. My only concern was that is when you start doing group stops, like maybe somebody mentioned, once you compile them, then, you cut my stop off the route. So that, again, that's the communication issue we have to work on. But I would love that anywhere except Route 4, 118, and 4A. Any other road is, not those roads. Yeah, I would love to have bus monitors on there as well. I think that's a great idea. I would love to have parents that work in the, live in the district, that have the hour in the morning, or an hour and a half in the morning they can do that. That would be really good, to be a way to see your kids. It would also be good if you're a husband and wife or a couple that drove and monitored a bus. That's another good way to do it too. But I digress. Anyway, that's pretty much, that's all I had to say. But thank you very much, everybody, for coming out. We will definitely take all this into consideration and work on solutions. But yeah, as you know, we are hiring bus drivers. Yes, please, if you did not sign in on the sign-in sheet, please sign in on the sign-in sheet. It just helps our minutes for accuracy so that we are all set. All right, thank you. I will let y'all filter out and we get to the real exciting part of our meeting where we discuss joint loss management committee. No, we'll get to you. No, yeah, I'm excited to hear it. I'll entertain a motion. I should motion to move
I make a motion that we move up the Route 4 and Royal Road. Hi, I'm Sarah.
All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, we'll let you filter out.
We need to bring back the spatula.
And Chief Porter, you'll be next. He's We might as well do the
I'll probably only keep myself for the whole year. By my aunt and my grandmother.
You know all the excitement's gonna happen.
Oh, I know, Jerry. Poor Jess, when you're driving on the route, that's hear all the stories.
Oh, see,
this is where the
Jenna Jones and story, we haven't had nearly enough.
Jerry
My aunt's grandpa get rich all the time. If he stood up, sit down. My aunt has a spatula, and I wouldn't go. If you sit back far enough, you can't reach her. And she started using the broom. Oh yeah. Yeah, that didn't work. You got almost with her again. That's neither part.
That's tough. That's, it's tough to make decisions like that. They slowed 31 to nothing. They ended up winning 21.
I think they're ready for your report. I want the feedback.
Yeah, it goes a little.
He's ready, if you're ready.
All right, hey folks, we're having our regular meeting here, so if y'all could just take it outside maybe, if you're not.
Or you're welcome to stay.
You're welcome to stay, but you gotta sit and be quiet. All right, thank you, Chief Porter. We bumped you up to next on the agenda, so thank you very much for hanging out with us here. And yeah, thanks. I noticed the impact almost immediately, first day of school and first week of school, but go ahead, I'll let you share with how it went.
I mean, I think it went well for us, from my perspective. Amanda asked me to come and kind of just talk to you guys about how the week went. But the first week of school, we tried to, I had said earlier that I would allocate some of the hours from our highway grant, highway safety grants towards the first week of school. And I put out, we had, throughout the 4 days of the first week of school, we had 17 or 19 officers out on the road at any given time. And that doesn't mean 19 a day. That's however many shifts that we had. And out of those hours that we put out there, 29 of them were overtime hours. And so those were funded from my grant. We made 131 traffic stops in and around school zones in the time frames that school traffic and commuters were in and out and prior to and after. So when sports games were happening, we did it during those times as well. We had one incident that we will make an arrest on that was school bus related, so it was a reckless driving type complaint that we investigated. We will make an arrest on that, and it's a reckless driving charge. So other than that, we had no accidents. We had nobody hurt. I felt like it was a successful week. And so obviously it's impossible for me to staff that many hours throughout the school year, but we will continue to be there and be present as much as possible. Kane is a little bit different. We're trying to deal with 2 school zones, sometimes with 1 officer, and we can't cover them both. So we're doing our best. We've gotten a lot of really great feedback, which was great. I had one parent that was upset that I spoke with her at night about she had to wait 20 minutes to get out of the parking lot. I don't know if that really was 20 minutes or not, or if it just felt like that.
Sometimes it feels like, yeah.
But after we talked for about an hour, she was very understanding and appreciative that you guys were making the effort to change things and that we were making the effort as well. So that's it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chief, for that. Anyone from the school board, any questions for Chief Porter?
Are they looking to do anything about, like, having the state help as well, as far as traffic and such?
I am so sorry. I can't hear anything.
Is the state of New Hampshire, meaning the state police, doing anything to try to help in areas that the local cops are not able to have jurisdiction over?
Yeah, so are you...
Obviously,
Dorchester
area.
Yeah. I don't know. State Police in Troop F, which is our troop, is so short-staffed right now that they're finding it very difficult to put people out there between certain time frames. And they're stretched throughout the county. So basically, there's one trooper that covers the whole county of Grafton. So I don't think so, but they might be doing it in other areas, at least not down here.
Okay. Anyone else? Scotland.
I have a question. Do you know of any public service announcements that we could use for the educational piece about having the children view it at the beginning of school year of the right and wrong things to do when you're approaching school buses and how your behavior on the bus?
I don't, but I would certainly be happy to look into that. There might be something out there with the highway safety or Office of Highway Safety might be able to give you some guidelines or something that I can send you guys.
Okay, thank you.
That'd be great. Make a video. Anyone else?
I would just echo what other people have said. It's been great to see the stepped up enforcement, and I think that it's been beneficial to our young drivers and to families, and even if they do have to wait a little bit longer, at least we're know the safe.
We do have a lot of distracted driving, so that means any type of distracted driving, but primarily cell phone use. So we will be out in the area doing enforcement, and we might not necessarily be in police cars. So.
And the wait time has greatly reduced. So I have morning duty. I can see like an officer waiting down there. There's no more waiting 20 minutes. It's pretty good now after the first week of school.
Yeah, no, thank you again for coming. Thank you for stepping up the enforcement. Now I think that people are like, oh wait, school's back in. There might be police around there. Now you have the element of surprise, and so you'll be able to. And if you asked me to guess how many stops you made, I would have said under 100. So hearing what you said, like 100, what did you say, 170?
131.
131. Yeah, that's remarkable. But it's most appreciated because I turned out of here during a sports game the other day, and I almost got taken out by a truck doing well over 50. And it's sorely needed, and I thank you very much. We all appreciate it. Before we get into budget cycle, let's talk about those speed signs that we had talked about earlier in the year, so we can get into our budget, and you guys can work on it for grants and stuff like that.
Okay.
But yeah, we'd love to work and partner to get some of those "your speed is" kind of signs that we've seen around. So, because I know that you have opportunities for grants, and maybe we do, and we'll figure out a way to get some in there. So,
all right,
cool.
Oh, I wanted to mention one thing too. So I have this connection with the American Legion Post 55 in Canaan, and I call it the Old Man's Club. And they are just talking up the town about the one-way signs that got changed down at the end of school.
That's big news.
It's the best thing that ever happened to Canaan. Everybody says, look at all those signs down there. And I said, well, there's no doubt what that means now. So I really appreciate it, and I know a lot of other people do too.
Yeah. We've had a few complaints, mostly in the evening, of drivers that are trying to bypass, but not during school times. We haven't had any complaints yet.
No, that street isn't that long that they can't go down and make the turn, left-hand turn.
Let's make the Osprey River.
Right. So,
Cool.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else on board? Sound good? Thank you so much, Chief Porter. Really appreciate it. All right. Next on our agenda here, we have our Joint Loss Management Committee meeting minutes. Let's see. Who was there? Amanda was there. Oh, wait, that guy was there. Dave Schindler.
So you do have the minutes as written and included in the packet. Overall, we selected dates, we selected a chair, and we reviewed some workers' compensation injury reports. You can see the recommendations that were made as listed in the minutes.
All right. Thank you so much. That's, just as a reminder, that's injuries on the job. State law requires us to have that, and any employer, really. So, all right. Up next, we have Finance Facilities, minutes from that meeting. Kathleen or Hope, I was not there. If either one of you would like to review that.
I think Hope would like to.
Oh.
Yeah, I love it. Let's see. Facilities, we went over what the summer projects have been completed. We talked a little bit about the energy grant in terms of keeping a monthly update on what's happening there. The guardrails, we're going to be looking at the New Hampshire Department of Transportation, that they will be replaced or repaired before winter. Also, we were sort of trying to firm up about the dugout at CES in terms of whether it's the town of Canaan's responsibility or the school district, and Deb did provide some information for that in the back.
Saw that. Yeah, the town is responsible for that.
There was basically nothing new in terms of this CIP, the audit, and Deb mentioned that the first payroll was processed this year. Let's see. Trying to get the system. We need the short version tonight, guys.
That's all right.
We did talk about transportation as usual, and what we Amanda mentioned that she would pull this together tonight. We are still also short a second driver for driver's education. That's another area that we're needing another, and it's beginning to be impacted. There was, Amanda brought together a group to discuss homecoming and what was happening for homecoming. And it looked like there was a whole lot going on there, and lots of fun things are happening, and everybody seemed very organized and excited about it. So that's about it.
Thank you for all that update on homecoming. That is a very good thing. Thank you. I appreciate it. So I'm looking forward to it. All right, any questions for Hope on that? All right. Next, we have superintendent's report. Amanda, what else do you have to say?
So you have my written report in your packet. I do just go back through and review some of the pieces for homecoming, Tim and I had some discussions at homecoming last year about the lack of lighting, some issues with the long lines for food. What I didn't realize is that this is a pretty territorial fundraising effort for Project Grad, which is understandable. Other groups have their own fundraising efforts. So I really pass this back along to the high school because I don't really want to coordinate not Project Grad, but homecoming stuff. I have other things to do. So I have been assured that we will have double the amount of lighting. Tina is organizing various food trucks, which will be 100% profit to the schools or other organizations, Project Grad, classes, whatever those other organizations may be. And we have actually had, Steve Stebbins did a nice job of asking other organizations to be present and to help out. So I think we will see some Interact Club or other organizations, clubs, what have you, here at the high school that will take part also in this. So that's where we are. We are still looking. We still have a few jobs open, specifically 7th grade science. We're still looking for a full-time math teacher here at the high school. We've definitely put pieces in place so the kids are receiving the instruction in those areas, but we are still looking for a few teachers and some paraprofessionals. I'd also like the board to note that in the electronic packet, I'm not sure if it was printed out to you or not, the bus contract is also in there, and there are bus routes as requested back to 2021. So Martha was able to pull the bus routes as requested. Yeah, the 2021 bus routes are listed there also.
Okay. All right. Any questions for Amanda? Thank you for putting all that together.
Sure.
Appreciate that. And yeah, homecoming will be great. It's a huge community event, and the whole school community, I like the idea of having every club involved, everybody. It's great. All right. Business administrator's report, financials. Financials are in your packet. As you can see, I don't think there's anything beyond that.
Yeah, any questions can get directed to Deb Ford.
Yep, and she will get right back to you, as she always does. All right. Opening week reports. Thank you, principals, for hanging out, hanging in there. I'll let you all get out to see who goes first.
I'd like Tina to go first.
All right, Tina can go first.
She has the longest drive.
Okay.
I will respectfully go last.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I have the shortest drive.
So it was a great first week. Our census numbers are 91 freshmen, 98 sophomores. Junior class is still the smallest, 83 seniors. It was rather humorous. We meet with all grade levels first day of school, and we thought something was off because our juniors were so much smaller in the section of bleachers, and then I did everything. We do welcome some. We only had one student absent in each of the grades except for, is it seniors? Yes. One student, which I thought was pretty good for the first day of school.
That's really good.
We have some new staff members. Kiri Sager, who came on as a long-term sub last year, stayed for science, and she's awesome. Taylor Nett has joined us for special education. Joanna Marcotte for computer tech. She's phenomenal, just a wealth of knowledge. Marsha Littlefield loves us so much, she came back to teach health. She just loves it. And Beth Sager is covering for that part-time math, and she's just amazing. And she's also co-teaching with Lori Sandmore. So two of them are tackling that together. I still have a full-time math teacher and an ELO teacher due to her resignation really late. Custodial staff, I can't say enough for all the work they did. Student workers, Corrado, all they did to get our building ready. The tech department, holy cow, unsung heroes. They manage all of our devices, get them clean, get them back to the kids, I can't do it. I go in there and it's crazy, but like just getting our kids ready. Some devices had to be turned in late for summer learning, and they did it all. So it's just, Campbell sat down for 2 days just getting kids going that day. So props to you, Campbell, because it was good. And again, this year we ended the day with popsicles on the field with all the kids.
I heard. That's great.
It was great. I feel like, Sim and I are in the second year, and just we feel that we're rolling. And
make everything bigger and better.
Yeah.
It's just fun. So,
Right.
homecoming will be great. We're working together closely with Jamie and April. We're gonna have kids do Hampshire Tackle Hunger. We're gonna have our students at the schools on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, our athletes, and picking up food and just reading elementary school kids.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, working together.
I thought I got ball and toe too.
Today, you talked to me about something else. I'm like, you're at homecoming supervised, by the way. He's like, okay, you know. So it's been a great.
It's always great when you can have high school kids go down and work with elementary school kids, because especially in something like that, because then they we did start doing that with graduates walking through the school buildings, and that like the little kids, they look up to those
Yeah, and
kids.
they're gonna wear their jerseys.
Exactly.
That'd be good.
Yeah. All right. Any questions for Tina?
This isn't necessarily a question, it could be. Since we had just a huge discussion on busing, is it something that we should get updated on, like data-wise? I mean, I don't really know. As far as a group.
Yeah,
high schoolers are hard.
Yeah.
So high schoolers, some of them will ride the bus in the morning, but then they do sports in the afternoon. As they get their driver's licenses, things evolve and change, so I can have, less kids throughout the year. We had a large group of kids now getting their licenses from summer driver's ed program. So it really does fluctuate, my numbers do. Especially a freshman may make friends with an upperclassman who drives. They may so I've started to see that, like underclassmen getting a ride with an upperclassman who drives because they don't want to wait out. So our number does fluctuate and change a little bit. I get on buses every afternoon, and Mr. Toll does too. We've seen, adjustments in the buses, less overcrowding and things of that nature. So I get on, I speak to our drivers. If we've dealt with a behavior issue, we let them know. That's just what we do. But yeah, I mean, our numbers are hard. Once it's a snow, if we get like no athletics a day in between seasons, our numbers will probably go up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the things, we literally have no ridership data.
Yeah.
We don't know.
And I mean, we could try, definitely, but I think it fluctuates.
Yeah,
and,
we do have data.
Yeah.
We have parents, the parents sign up daily
Yeah.
to tell us, so Monday through Friday, they have to tell us how their child is getting when we're there.
Yeah, and they do that, and then like if we have like a bus is gonna be late that day, then our alma system is just like, how we've done in the past, we can notify them, so that's all good. I think it does, can change by the athletic season, but really, we do have that information.
Yes.
Talking about the data for the bus rides, I heard back from the two drivers that I went with that they don't get the information filtered down, especially about the high school kids, because of the sports programs, and they have driver's license and things like that. But my hope is that this board will support the purchase of a software program that will be updated by each individual school and then fed on to the bus companies so that it's instantaneous.
Yeah.
That the drivers will have that information as soon as we do.
Yeah, I think that any opportunities for increased communication.
Yep.
Yeah.
Alma has a bus route system.
Yeah.
And
But
Yeah.
not like the one I want to buy.
No, she was telling me about one that it's an app the parents can look at the same time as the school can look at. And
So that's like a GPS one.
Similar to
So
that.
that is built into most contracts, as
Yeah.
I've talked to other bus companies, and as we start to put the contract out, that's actually built in, so routing software and a GPS tracker on the bus, not on individual students. I will never support that.
No.
I am for child protection and
Yeah.
privacy at all cases. If a parent wants to buy a kid a watch, absolutely.
Have
Do
at it.
I want adults being able to track kids full-time? Absolutely not. Chimada. But that's very different to me.
Right.
But that is built into contracts even with butlers, is that they would have routing software and a GPS tracker on the bus.
Yeah, our next contract will have that stuff for sure.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that my niece currently uses the GPS tracker on her 9-year-old's bus. And it does amazing things to relieve that anxiety that the parents have, wondering, is the bus coming or is the bus late? What's going on? And all it does is basically give you the dot of where the bus is. It doesn't identify any individuals.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it just says it's buses.
Yeah, you can have that, that's built in, but you can also have a system where the kids themselves are fitted with a tracker.
Yeah, no, thank you.
No, that's not what I'm talking about.
Listen to your mother.
And see that would be good, because then you see the dot stop on the map at the same spot every day. You're like, oh, that must be where they pull over and, have to talk to a kid or have to let all the cars go. Okay,
Yeah. And the parents don't get that app unless they sign up and they
There's a
get
code.
like a passcode to use it.
Yeah.
It's very similar to what a lot of college campuses will use for their shuttle service.
Oh, is that right? Oh, cool.
Yeah, Connor and UConn can check and see where the shuttle is.
Oh, yeah, advanced
If he wants
transit
to
has
get on
that.
it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about advanced transit as a solution too. We'll get there. All right, anything else for Tina? Thank you, Tina.
Actually, though,
Oh.
if you don't mind jumping to Tina's field trips in case there are any questions.
Okay.
It's lengthy.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to move high school field trips up to next on the agenda.
So moved.
All right, second, Danielle, second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Who made the original motion?
Kathleen,
Thank you.
Danielle, second.
Yep.
And all opposed? Abstentions? All right, field trips to the high school. Go.
We're really looking at experiential learning opportunities for kids, getting them out of the classroom. This is the comprehensive, this is like everybody's wish list, hope to do this. This is really what we want to do this. So we don't have to keep coming back to 6 or 10. Each department, math, foreign language, Galapagos Islands, which we've already approved. National Honor Society does stuff. Bess is looking to do a lot of, things, get students out and about. Nancy, Ms. Grout's got a whole bunch of things on there, and some of them are student council related, activities that are coming there. Guidance, we are going to a couple of college fairs, hoping to do, we're doing the SNU one in a couple weeks. And then hoping to, I think it's Keene in the springtime, that's a really big one, so hoping to go there as well. One of the new things that's on the list is the Dream Mentoring Program. So there's, it's on here, so we have a program, Dream coordinator that comes to the building and works with students on mentoring programs. So they come in and then they're looking at taking kids over to Thetford Outdoor Program for leadership stuff, over to Dartmouth. So it's really, I think there's 8 students in that now, and then eventually they're going to build up and they do mentoring at the middle school. So again, we're continuing with that.
Awesome. Any questions from the school board on these?
And Mr. Simula and I are duking it out over Beetlejuice and Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
We get to flip a coin for both of them, yeah.
It looks like the trips to DC, are we planning on doing those like every other year?
Yes, I
For
am.
music,
So just
yeah,
for
that's what
fundraising
they-
and whatnot.
Yeah.
I think our wish list would always be Montreal. We'll come back to you if we decide to do that in spring, but it's a lot for Lindsay to do it all
Yeah.
with the Galapagos trip, but really, that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, we'd like to kind of look at trips like that. The only thing I was going to ask that we strike from this were the 2 ones that said senior class trip. One says senior class destination TBD in June, and then another one down, senior class trip destination TBD in June. My only concern is we do not know where they are going. I do not like saying,
As long as you're okay with us bringing it, it usually is on the packet.
yeah, I figure you bring it later in the spring or later in the winter once they
Yeah, in
determine.
the wintertime, we'll bring it to you what they decide. It's hard because the kids don't know yet, and what money they have and whatnot, so.
Yeah. No, that's the only ones I would strike, just because I don't feel comfortable just saying, yeah, go wherever you want to go. Not that I think you go anywhere crazy, but
The only other note is that I know in the past when we've tried to send kids to the college fairs, which is great, sometimes they fall on dates where there's also other activities or games. And we've had difficulty trying to get kids who wanted to maybe go from the the college fair and then be transported perhaps by parents to get to the game. Otherwise, they have to basically, if they want to fulfill their obligation to their team, they need to skip the college fair, which makes it very difficult.
Well, good thing we can arrange that, but Seven's please not watching. We can work on that. We can reschedule.
That was a few years ago, because it's been a while since we've sent people because of the COVID stuff, but it was, that was definitely a concern.
And we can work on that too, because we want to keep it open for juniors and sophomores in the spring.
The other ones, some of them are just a little general, like college fair. It just says college fair.
So that was, so it's supposed to be Keene State.
Okay, all right, that's the Keene State one, okay.
We have to wait till the springtime, that's where it was held last year.
Okay, all right, cool.
So that's like, we want to take them to a bigger fair.
Yeah,
Snooze is coming up in a couple weeks.
Yep.
But
okay. And then, yeah. All right. Any other questions on this?
No, just an informational thing. Outdoor pursuits are planning on going up Mount Cardigan this fall.
Yeah.
I just want to mention that they're in the process of rebuilding the tower. And maybe they can coordinate the dates with the state of New Hampshire and have a photo op up there of the new tower.
I will definitely suggest it. That's one of those things that, we plan it, and then if it's gonna be bad weather, then it gets rescheduled, and.
Oh, they won't be putting the tower top on in bad weather. They're doing it with helicopters.
Yeah, it's so cool. I hiked your stars when they were over there doing stuff.
Oh, cool. Neat.
Thank you for the suggestion. I'll suggest that to Ray.
Yeah, cool stuff happening around here. All right, any other questions for Tina on field trips? And is the board okay with taking off the senior class trip for right now?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve these then, minus the senior class trip.
Second.
Motion to approve. No, I think you both kind of just quietly said something.
They had a motion to discuss.
Yep. Oh, you
Well,
did?
we had a motion
No, we had a
to
motion to move this up in the agenda.
Oh,
That's what that was earlier.
All right, so I make a motion that we approve the high school 23-24 field trips as presented minus the senior trip.
Okay. And second?
I'll second.
All right, Candace, second. All right, cool. All right, any further discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions. All right, have fun.
Thank you.
Report back. Let us know if you have extra tickets to Beetlejuice. That will be fun, or Trans-Siberian Orchestra. All right, which school would like to be up next? For principal report.
She's telling me it's my turn.
She's telling me it's your turn.
You live the next furthest away.
Come on down.
VIII is really excited. We have 42 registered kindergartners this year, which is 4 up from last year and 4 up from the year before that. So we are continuing to increase our enrollment at VIII. It's been really kind of cool to watch. We had about 50 students and their families walk with our fire department and our police department from Hughes Park on the first day of school to VBS, which is a tradition that I'm hoping that I can talk them all into doing on the last day of school as well, because I thought it would be really, really fun to kind of book in.
That would be fun.
So that was really exciting. We also had our amazing PTA did our Boohoo breakfast annually. We have all of our kindergarten parents come in and have coffee and donuts that's supported by the PTA to have their tears not happen in the classroom, which is great. I've only had a couple of other students that I have to help get away from mom and dad in the morning, and it's been okay. We want to welcome Miranda Shellhammer to our kindergarten team. Because of the increase in numbers in our kindergarten class, we wanted to go with 3 full kindergarten classrooms so that we don't have too many kids in the room. Last year we had 19 in each of our 2 classrooms or 2 days. We welcome Amanda Jenkins and Tara Lenahan to our 4th grade team. Trent Jones is returning to the district, and he's our PE teacher. And I welcome Lynn Raymond as a paraprofessional in our building this year. Susan Johnson is a full-time reading specialist at Canaan. She's splitting her time between Canaan and EBS, which means I have more reading support, which is excellent, because I'm also implementing a new WIN block, which is for what I need. To support growth in our reading, to support our early literacy skills. Heidi Mock has transitioned from grade 4 to reading specialist, and she's got an amazing level of energy and is jumping in with both hands and feet. It's been really great. In the building over the summer, the custodial staff was amazing. We have new flooring in the PT/OT room, which is great. It's very easy to clean. They can just use water and mops, and they're really excited about that. We also have a new flooring in the main office, which again, water resistant, slip resistant, like all these great things. The outdoor classroom is ready for the frame to be pulled up, and I think we just scheduled the lift of that, and I can't remember exactly what the date is, but we're actually gonna get the frame up.
Sounds like a barn raising.
It's gonna be, that's
Nice.
essentially what's happening. It's kind of cool because it was built and ready in the spring, but we weren't able to get all the pieces done, and so we're really excited to get that set and ready to go. We have an updated conference room, and again, thanks to the PTA, we also now have a rock wall in our gymnasium, which is really exciting. Our daily routine is about the same as last year. We have one more lunch, so we have fewer kids going through the lunch line, which has made our cafeteria staff very, very happy. And be looking forward to hearing about our, we are doing the Fire Prevention Week again. We're doing that poster contest. We're gonna have kids ride in fire trucks, and we're gonna have a fire safety day at school coming up in early October.
All right, cool. Any questions?
I do, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you have bus safety programs in the beginning of school?
Yeah, so I have a behavior rollout plan, and as part of that behavior rollout plan, we have what's called the Best Bussers Ever. And it's kind of a cool tool that we use to teach our kids what they're supposed to be doing on the buses. Clearly, we need to revisit that. It's unfortunate because I didn't know that we were having trouble on the bus, and whatever, but I do know that we were 5:15 to 5:30 clearing the EVS bus in the first week or so, and the last couple of days, other than today, we were done at 4:30. So I know that they've been making better changes. And they just requested today for me to load the bus in a grade order or something different to make it more convenient for them.
Neat.
And I got that email at 10:06, so I'll be happy to make an adjustment tomorrow.
Because they just mentioned it in the meeting too, so yeah, it's like, I'm gonna, yeah.
We love Eric, he's great.
Yeah.
I thought he brought up good concerns.
Yes, and I totally can make, it makes sense to do a consolidated stop at that Sugar Hill.
Yeah.
That sounds like it makes sense. But yeah, I think it would be great. I also am in support with having a second adult on the bus if we can do that. I don't know what the expectation or that rules are around not putting names on the stops. If that's something that we can address as a community, that might be good.
I can fill you in on that later. I have some serious concerns about that also.
Good.
So we can try and work that out and make it all kinds of better. Do you want to do my field trips?
I was just gonna ask, is everybody okay with bumping up field trips for EVS next?
Yes.
And motion for that?
Yes. so
Danielle?
moved.
All right, the second? Anyone? Second, Kathleen, second. All those in favor of doing EVS field trips next, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, abstentions? All right. Field trips for EVS. Questions for her there?
I don't have it printed, so I can't go through it.
So you have Swan Lake for kindergarten in June. All these are in June. Swan Lake for kindergarten, Billings Farm for grade 1, Montshire for grade 2, Swan Lake for grade 3, and the State House and the Shaker Museum for grade 4. And then throughout in grade 4 is also Garfield Women's Basketball, Claire's Dream, Lebanon Opera House in December. Awesome. Yeah, some students, I'm just looking at your notes here, a little bit to go to theater production. Yeah, that's awesome. We love the arts, so yes.
We're looking forward to that. I guess before I came to Mascoma, it was a tradition that the PTA would pay for the busing or they would pay for the tickets or something. They are not in a position to do that this year, so it's kind of a what's available, what can we do, are we able to fund that?
We have experience in the arts, which I think fits that.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's going to help us in the Dance Institute as well this year, which is really exciting, but that's not happening tomorrow.
Yeah.
Also, the Dartmouth women's basketball, that's a day where they typically invite us, they pay for it, and then all I have to do is organize it, so that's really great. And then Lebanon Opera House did the same thing for Clara's Dream last year, and was able to get us there.
They are closed for this year.
They are,
for
so
renovations.
I don't know if the Lebanon Ballet is also going to still do it, but they're going to do it at in White River.
Okay.
I've heard that rumor, but I don't have that in writing.
The other thing, and this might be another place to look, I mean, Dartmouth has theater productions possibly, and Plymouth State also has a very good theater production as well.
I didn't do that.
Oh, very, very nice theater, and they do theater productions that are kid-friendly as well throughout the year. I don't know what they have, but that's another idea.
And I believe the date just came out to us for us to come to the high school for
The music concert.
Freaky Friday.
Freaky Friday, yeah.
Freaky Friday.
So we just set that date
This
and that
March,
didn't
yep.
make it in here, so I apologize, but that is one that was planned.
That's an in-house one, that's fine.
Yeah, and that, as a parent of a kid who was on stage, that was awesome. To have all the elementary kids come out, very, very cool. So, any other questions on that? On EVS field trips? All those in favor signify. All those in favor of approving the EVS field trips as presented signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed. Abstentions. Great.
Was there a motion to approve that I missed? There was a
No.
motion to move it up.
Oh, you're right. Sorry, I'm so streamlined.
Make a motion to approve the
All right.
EVS field trips as presented.
Okay. Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Abstentions. All right. Sorry, I'm like got my foot on the gas right now. Cool. And then if you do have other stuff, obviously you'll bring it back. So. Yep. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next. Which one of you is farther away?
He was further away.
Right here. I must say, this has been the most challenging start of my career, to say the least. But, having said that, we have, in 5th grade, we have 72 students. Grade 6, we have 70. 7th grade, 94. And 8th grade, 70, for a total of 306. As to date, we've lost students around 290, 299. When I first started, I had 427 students 14 years ago. So, and I also had 25 teachers, and I currently have 21. So teachers have gone as well as students. Custodial team did a great job on our building, getting our floors waxed and cleaned and prepped. We have 8 new staff members, starting with our interim associate principal, Ryan Leverow. We stole him from Enfield. Administrative assistant to the principal, Erica Ball, who's doing a great job. I didn't think Tina could be replaced. I think we found one, so she's doing a great job. Tamika Childs was doing 6th grade last year. She's now in 5th grade. Grade 6, we've added Tanya Young, again from Enfield Village, and Bill Loynes. Music education, we have Ashley Gagney that we recruited. Special education, Xandra Wisniewski and Hillary Gillies. We are currently looking for a 6th grade language arts teacher. We have a nomination, I believe, coming to you tonight. And we have a 7th grade science teacher working her way through the quagmires of certification at the Department of Education. That could take a while. Our plan again this year is to continue with our known school-wide improvement plan. Our goal is to be a spotlight school this spring or next year. And considering all the challenges that we've had with reassignment of staff to different roles at the last minute, our morale is very high. So you have a great middle school staff you should be proud of. I'm proud of every day. And they rolled up their sleeves and they have tackled this challenge and continue to fight the fight until we get a full staff. You can't ask for anything better.
That's right. That's fine. Thanks, Kevin. Any questions for Kevin on that?
Make a motion to move the IRS field trip consideration up on the agenda.
Okay.
Second.
All right. All those in favor of moving up the field trip, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Abstentions? All right. IRS field trips. You got your chart here. Thank you. That is very handy. Ooh, I like how you differentiate the overnight ones because now they're at the age where they start doing overnights, so that helps. Yeah, do a motion now so I don't forget, please.
I'll make a motion to discuss the Indian River field trips for school year 23-24.
All right.
Just discuss?
To approve.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, all those in favor, okay,
Yes.
we have it on the floor. We'll come back to it. Okay, thank you. All right, any questions on any of these?
No changes from last year, still a lot of tentative depending on, as we talked earlier, bus drivers.
Yep.
Because a couple of trips do require to go to Boston and they don't get back till 6 or 7. That takes a bus or 2 or 3 out of the lineup that we don't have. So if there's buses or drivers, we'll do that. If not, we will do local field trips where they can go for the day, get back by 2, and the bus drivers can still make the runs.
All right. Cool. Any other questions? I'm sure other ones may come across us, especially with, like I said, experience in the arts. So anything that pops up artsy that a teacher wants to go to, you got that there. All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving IRS field trips as presented, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Abstentions? All right. Have fun. Thank you, Kevin.
Your turn.
Best of luck on the year. Thank you. All right. Last but not least. All right. CES. How was your opening week?
It was great. We had 232 students enrolled. 192 of those are kindergarten through 4th grade. 40 of them are our preschoolers. Kindergarten, we had 46 students in kindergarten, so we have 3 teachers for that. We added lane cutting as our new kindergarten teacher, and she is phenomenal, so it was a great hire there. First grade, we have 38 students, and we have 3 teachers there. And then second, third, and fourth, we have 2 teachers apiece, so their class sizes are a little bigger, but they are 35, 36, and 37 class sizes. So we're getting kind of full, but they're making the best of it. I have to shout out our facilities people. They are amazing. I walked in July 3rd, and they gave me a map of, we're cleaning this room this time because we have this camp coming in. We hosted the extended school year program for the whole elementary school in the district, so ABS is here as well. So we had rooms that they had to wax and get done before I even started, and they got that done. We got the library carpet replaced, so it works better. It's got a little pond in it because it goes with our farm theme. If you haven't been to CES, you'll love it.
I haven't been there yet.
You gotta come see it.
All right, I will.
And so we had to move some people around, but Jack, Clinton, Emily, and Christian did a phenomenal job working around all of the different things going on in the building. A shout out to the Canaan Police Department for the one-way signs. As I just said, who do I have to talk to? And bam, they popped up, so thank you for that. They also helped us out on the first day traffic because I've been told wait for the angry parent calls because they're stuck in traffic on Route 4. Everybody seems to be moving along rather quickly. I am amazed at my staff and what they can accomplish getting that line and getting kids in there. So it's been great. I'm having fun with the littles. We ended the first week with an all-school dance party.
Oh, all
and
right.
so that was a lot of fun.
Oh, you didn't invite us, huh? That sounds like fun, though. That's great.
It was fun.
All right. Any questions on that? Very cool. Sounds like you're settling in rather well.
Yep.
All right, cool. All right, then we might as well do CES field trips next. The only thing next on the thing is first day enrollment, so I don't think we need to. We can just do them. All right. Where are our CES field trips? All right, you got a nice spreadsheet too. Okay, so yeah, just going to Vermont. Just your typical stuff: farms, Opera House, Squam Lakes, Vin's, State House, Fort at number 4, all that good stuff. Any questions on those?
Seem pretty standard.
Standard, yep. If the only thing I would say is like you'll have other stuff to bring to us. Obviously, that's great. Like going to the musical, like you just said, just found out.
Yeah,
Whatever.
I threw it out there.
Oh, is it?
It
Okay.
does say
Oh, all right,
on the
all right, all right. Cool. All right.
Make a motion that we accept and for approval of the Canaan Elementary School field trips for the year.
Okay.
Second.
And Kathleen, second. Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Abstentions. All right, have fun. Enjoy the year. All right. Next thing on our agenda, technically we have first day enrollments. All the principals did tell us first day enrollments, but you can see in your packet, you do have grade by grade, or a nice little grid. Total student enrollment, first day enrollment is 1,115 students. That's our total number, with Canaan Elementary with 232, Enfield with 213, Indian River with 306, and Mascoma with 347. And we have 17 of the grade 20 students that we are responsible for until they are 22. Thank you. All right. Is there anything else on first day numbers?
No, we're trending. I never take the enrollment numbers, the first day enrollment numbers to heart. I like to wait to see to the October 1st numbers, because that gives us some time, for kids that may have moved and not know this, giving us notification. So the October 1st numbers are the numbers that we will send to the state for official numbers for enrollment. Last year, we ran October 1st enrollments at 118.
Okay.
So we're trending pretty much on par. Hopefully we don't lose a lot of students between now and October 1st.
All right, any questions on that? Okay. Next on our agenda, we have NHSBA resolutions. That was just to discuss if we had any to discuss, but it is coming up in October, right? October 14th, all right. So we can bring that up again. They should be releasing them to us soon, right?
I haven't seen them, but yes.
Yes. All right. So then we can table that till next when we see them. If that works for people, we can bring that up at the next meeting if they get released between now and the next meeting. So.
Yeah.
All right. Last thing we have on our agenda is policy GBBA, which had come to us before, and we had said, can we check if we need this policy anymore? And I assume that, it sounds like you checked with legal and they said you're all set.
Yep, it is covered by law, so you do not have to have it. You can keep it if you want.
All right.
It's superfluous.
Yep.
I'll make a motion that we withdraw.
Okay.
Policy GBBA, open shop policy. It's no longer needed.
Yep.
I'll second.
Kathleen second. All right, so yeah, basically this policy is saying that we don't have a closed shop policy, that you have to join the union for employment, but that has been changed by federal law at this point anyway, so we do not need this policy. All right, well that's, yeah. Any further questions, comments? All right, all those in favor of withdrawing GBBA signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Abstentions. All right. Agenda items for next meeting. We have committee reports. We have our bids for heating things. MS 25 and DOE 25. Budget committee calendar, because they will be starting up relatively soon, if I'm not mistaken. And then October PD newsletter. I'm sure other fun stuff will pop up as well. Is there anything else anyone else needed to add to the second meeting? Yeah, we'll do that. All right. Public comment. Go ahead. All right, Cheryl, go ahead.
Hey there. So, Cheryl Torville, Kenya, New Hampshire. Kathleen, first I want to thank you for riding the bus routes. Conveniently enough, you rode the routes of Matthew and Lindsay, who are here tonight, and they both were telling us how much they appreciated that someone came and rode their routes. They said that you may have held on for dear life, and they also had vomit bags with them in case you needed one. So thank
I
you.
was wearing my seatbelt
Yeah.
because I thought I
We
was
were
going
holding
to
on
be
to
in
the seat with a
the,
death grip, we were told.
on the floor. Yeah, it was that bad.
So thank you for doing that. Ryan, thank you for having a police presence out front in the high school. That makes a huge impact with that morning commute. It is a disaster getting in and out of here in order to get to Hitchcock. God help me. Also is that, you know, I'm supposed to be transporting a child to Canaan Elementary and then coming here to drop off more kids. So there's another snafu in my life with busing because the elementary bus doesn't drop the same time as the middle school bus. And if I'm caught in a snowstorm and I can't get there, then the child's not getting off and it's a disaster. So that would lead me to, I am such a visual person. Remember last time I brought you Let's Play the Game, Find My Child? So today I brought you a Rotary Circle. So we have parents, we have students, we have bus, we have Mascoma staff, we have a classmate. It starts here at home where the parents are with the kids. The kids are rowdy and getting up in the morning. They're tired. As you've seen, Matthew here has now been strolling around because the ADD meds have walked off. You know, get here, they're exhausted or they're either hyped up from being on that bus, they're hungry because they didn't get breakfast or whatever. The bus driver's feeling the tension and the stress because now they're fed up with the kids behaving the way they're doing. Now the staff, the schools are getting fed up and getting held on to because, nope, this kid over here has been unruly, so now we're going to pause class while we deal with this one, or that kind of thing. And then it affects their classmates. Their classmates are now feeling it. So now the classmates are taking it home back to the parents. So it's a vicious circle, which then would lead me to, you know, we heard a lot of people asking about different solutions and we all need to work together and work together. You know, in the hospital, we have these committees that we form, and, you know, I'm with U.S. Ski and Snowboard, I'm with U.S. Track and Field, and these other committees. We formulate committees which bring different pieces of the parties. So if you wanted to form a bus committee, shall we say, where members of the school board, members of the bus company, administrators come in, grab a few parents, because they can advocate for the parents instead of bringing 50 parents in here to scream at everybody, bring in some kids. Start teaching the kids how politics run. The kids had never been to a school board meeting before, so this was great for them to see how democracy works in our school system, which I also want to give Tana Fleming kudos, and she's left, but she helped 2 kids advocate tonight who've never stood up in public and spoke like that. So that was commendable to her. But I think if you thought about creating that parent system, getting everybody involved, that'll cut down some of the communication barriers. Like, you may not know the communication we got or how we didn't get it. Right. For instance, I never got told my route was being eliminated until I saw that, and it just created a snafu snowball. I mean, I feel like I'm in a tsunami right now. You know, Mr. Shinglinger, you know, he stopped driving because his route was so long that it was then affecting his day here teaching. And, you know, I kind of wondered a little bit more after I sat here and listened about Methodist Hill. There's families over there. If the Methodist Hill kids could all be put onto one little bus, we make the exception of middle school, elementary school, That would suffice some of that part. And then I thought more about it is Back Bay, Fernwood Farms, and that little area. You've tacked that on to the first half of the 118 bus. So 118 is leaving here, going up Roberts Road by the Mascoma Community Center, going down Canaan Street, up Fernwood Farms, back down Fernwood Farms. If you asked Mr. Shinglinger if he would entertain returning to drive a smaller bus, he could probably take Roberts Road, the 2 kids on Canaan Street, Fernwood, and back. That would shave 30 minutes off the 118 bus. So I think, if we looked at how we could shuffle some of those, I was going to reach out to a friend of mine whose husband coordinates bus routes in another district and another bus company and ask if we could tap their software, just to have some funsies and see what it would tap. But Kathleen and I both Googled those routes. One of the other challenges, and Eric commented, he didn't know who was getting off who and where and all that. When I took poor Jess here driving around Enfield and Canaan so she could see some of these roads, one of the biggest things pet peeves, 911 numbers are not up on signs. So how does that bus driver know he's stopping at 356 Shaker Hill? You can't find the house. You have to guess where you're going to be dropping off. So that was just a pet peeve. And Matthew commented about he will clean the bus. There was a rule when Cookie drove that bus. You mess up her bus, you misbehave, Cookie's keeping you on the bus, and she's driving back here after, and she's going to park on the front lawn, and she and I are going to have a cup of tea while you scrub the bus down for her. Parent discipline. And I agree, maybe we do need to start having kids sign something for the buses like we do with their computers and all those other things. But that could fall in under that bus committee process. Make everybody get engaged and involved and feel part of it. Will cut down some of the workload for you, but also maybe cut down some of the badgering that's happening because everybody has opportunity to get involved. I've come here a few times for you guys because I've been asked to advocate for a lot of kids. There's 2 kids, a mom reached out to me in Grafton. One has a 504 for mental, severe panic attacks. She was on the bus, the van, and then the routes got revamped and she got thrown on a bus. It's a disaster. That kid is really struggling. So you put a kid with an anxiety disorder having a panic attack on a bus, that's a distraction to the driver. It could cause issues for safety of other kids. It then trickles into the classroom, the classmates, the teacher, and the rest of the staff. So I think a bus committee would be something to explore. I think a lot of people have a lot of different skill sets to offer. I bring back behind me a paralegal degree and a healthcare management. So I bring different aspects. But again, I want to thank you guys for working on this. You're certainly taking a hit. I know Miss Isabel's been hit up and slammed up. Phone, email, phone calls. But I remember her as a principal in elementary school, and she had a lot of respect from those students. And so I can only hope that we can get the respect levels back up where they should be before these kids start going out into public and creating more work for Ryan. Thank you.
There's that.
That's a good point. Thank you, Sheriff. Skyler, go ahead.
Just 2 short things. One, we got to keep an eye on the Galapagos trip because Ecuador is not getting better.
I just watched that on the
It's
news.
politically getting worse.
Yep.
So, and the second one is you got a field trip going to Plymouth State for theater in October. You better sign up pretty soon if you haven't signed up because as a sponsoring organization,
Are you?
we're at 275
Wow.
and we stop at 350. So
Wow.
you better get them signed up.
I was
If
just
you're
saying,
not signed
I
up
see
yet.
plays there all the time, and they're always really good.
Well, no, we're just New Hampshire Educational Theater Guild sponsors
Oh, that.
workshops.
Oh, yeah.
It's a day of
Yep.
workshops.
Yep, they went
and
last
the
year.
theater is at night for the kids who want to go to the theater.
That's right.
But
Yeah.
we're at 275, 280 as of the weekend, so 350 is our max. That's as much as Plymouth State will handle in high school kids.
I don't. That's more than I would have.
So.
Cool. No, that's
so
good to
that
know.
we can
That's good to know.
Get in there.
Yeah, she went last year, and it was very beneficial for the kids who went. So I hope they get in. So for
And
both tech
hopefully-
and for.
And hopefully the director will come to the directors forum, which we hold at normally around 1 to 2 o'clock.
Oh, all right. Cool. Anything else?
Yes, please.
Anybody? All right, go ahead.
How can, as parents, get support when our children are starting to fall apart as far as getting up so early in the morning? And this is week 2, and last night was a struggle to get Lindsay to focus, to get her homework done. I literally had to sit with her to make sure that she got her homework done. So I need some tools or advice or ideas of how I can help my child continue to be focused when she has to get up so early and carry on at school.
Sure. Is Lindsay at the high school now, or is she okay?
Yes.
I lose track. Call, give the guidance department a call, because that is definitely something that they need to be aware of.
Yeah.
So, email Tina, and then your guidance counselor would be Stephanie Cooney.
Okay.
And she's dedicated to just freshmen, and I think that would be very good for Lindsay to be able to be like, hey, look, you know, could you get me a routine? Could you help me with a study hall? Because maybe there's a structured study hall that it's easy. I know I've got a freshman now and a junior, and if they don't have to sit and do homework, they won't, and that wastes the whole study hall.
Right.
So there's a couple different things we can help you out.
I will say she does have a study hall, and she's very good at getting what she can done during the study hall. It's just those other pieces that if she doesn't, you know, if she isn't able to complete it, you know, that, you know.
So we can put some supports here at school for her.
I will say as a parent, and I mean, you're probably as a parent too, you're gonna say, but like for me as a parent, like reaching out to the teachers, because they've been very understanding and be like, all right, I know this kid has this issue, okay, I'm gonna deal with it this way, you know, like that's been and the guidance counselors as well, I have to say as well, have been a huge help for my kids dealing with things like that.
Okay. And I was gonna say similar, you know, I haven't had to deal with the needing to get up at 5:30 to get ready and get on a bus part, but I have had the kind of the other end of things and coming back at 11 o'clock at night for sports.
Right.
And I think whatever the issue is, it's always good to try to find those tools and suggestions for structure, and they may not as teens and as students appreciate it in the moment, but they seem to once they see how their stress levels can kind of decrease as part of that, creating that routine and consistency, even when it's a lot of chaos around them that they're trying to deal with. So definitely, I think even essentially for all parents, those are important skills to be able to feel confident in being able to help your kids in that kind of way.
Yeah. That'd be just also the difference. My senior, seeing from where she was as a freshman to now, like she's built those skills because of the help that she's gotten from guidance counselors and stuff like that. So
I just want to make sure, because she's a very hard, and I know she's my child, but she is a very hard worker, and she takes everything to heart. And so I want her to be successful, and I want to make sure that she can get that success by the tools that we need to offer her. And as long as I know and she knows that, what? Yes, shortening the bus route would be great. What was did we ever, because I know I had originally expressed at the first board meeting that I came to that, what was the chances of trying to get the van reinstated for Lindsay at all?
Send that request again to Tina Fleming. I've had to back out of some of this. I was just buried and didn't know the details to some of the routes and some of the nuances. Send that request to Tina Fleming and
I will
see,
send that.
because there may be a chance, because they've noticed that some of the ridership on the vans, like people said, yes, pick up my kid, and they're not picking up those kids. So send that right into Tina, and she'll be able to help you
I'll
out,
do that for
because
sure.
that has happened. There's been some other adjustments, so.
And then my last comment is, as far as the tracking software, I think that would be huge, because I feel like at least if the bus isn't showing, it will give me an understanding, an idea of looking at that app to be like, whoa, what is happening? They're still here. And then I could possibly make arrangements, or at least connect with work to say I'm going to be a delay because I can't leave, or whatever. At least it would give parents an idea of real time what's happening.
yeah, that's totally a new technology that did not exist 5 years ago.
And I would agree with that, because, let's see, it would have been when Matthew and Timmy were in elementary school. There was a day where we sat outside for 30 minutes and the bus hadn't shown. I called poor Kamala, who didn't know what was going on because nobody could reach the bus service. We didn't know where the bus was, and then about 9 o'clock we learned the bus driver had called out sick.
Right.
So that is key. One other last thing, and then I'll check out of here, is that bus committee, but also is a survey go out in June. Parents, what are you anticipating your needs are next year? Because I heard earlier when I asked, why did my bus stop suddenly get dropped? I mean, it's been a stop for 10 years. I had no communication or nothing. And then I hear, we base our information off previous routes. Well, my bus stop's been on for the last 10 years and it suddenly dropped. So I don't, maybe collecting some data in advance to do some preliminaries and then go forward. Because to me, it's very clear that some of those routes were restructured without even gathering the data from previous years. Not blaming fault here, it's just the stop's been in play for over years. How does it just suddenly disappear? The kids are still going to school. So they're not driving, they're not, yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. And we do have, we want to do this resignation after non-public?
We can do them right now,
All
that's
right.
fine too.
All right, you have in front of you staff resignations and retirements presented. I'll entertain a motion to accept those.
Make a motion to accept the staff resignations as presented.
All right.
I second.
Who seconded? Oh, I heard something. All right. Okay. All those in favor of accepting the staff resignations as presented, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Abstentions. All right. We do have non-public?
We do for the purpose of hiring.
All right. I'll make a motion.
Motion to go into non-public.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All right. Kathleen seconds. Okay. Danielle?
Yes.
Tim? Yes. Kathleen?
Yes.
Hope?